Okay, good morning. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I am Christian Lotta, CPA, President of the California Board of Accountancy. Welcome to our July 16th, 2026 CBA meeting. I would like to take a moment to welcome our newly assigned DCA Legal Counsel, Christine Jacob. And Ms. Jacob, would you like to say anything before we start?
Sure. I'd like to say thank you for having me. I am happy to be here and I'm excited to assist the board in any way I can with their mission of protection of the public.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. All right, the CBA welcomes and encourages public participation throughout the meeting. Members of the public have an opportunity to provide comment in person or via the WebEx platform. Instructions on how to make a public comment will be provided whenever a comment period is open. You will be allotted up to 5 minutes for public comment. Ms. Reed, can you please establish a quorum?
Christian Lotta,
Present.
Doug Aguilera,
Present.
Patricia Batchelor,
Here.
Nancy Dong,
Present.
Yanita Guzman,
Present.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Here.
Tony Lynn, Bruce Rayful,
Here.
Joe Rosenbaum,
Here.
Teresa Thompson,
Here.
Yin Tu,
Here.
Evangeline Ward, and Abigail Zielinski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. I will now read our mission statement into the record. The CBA's mission is to protect consumers by ensuring only qualified licensees practice public accountancy in accordance with established professional standards. The mission is derived from the statutory requirement that protection of the public shall be the highest priority for the California Board of Accountancy in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with the other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. First, I would like to take public comment for any items not on the agenda. Seeing none here in Sacramento, moderator, are there any members of the public online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears we have no request for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you, moderator. All right, so that will move us on to agenda item 2, report of the president. We will first be starting with item 2D, and then we will circle back to items 2A and 2C after lunch. And getting started with that, agenda item 2D is a presentation by Secretary Treasurer Batchelor regarding the experience requirements for CPA licensure. One clarification I want to make before she begins her presentation relates to page 3 of the PowerPoint containing an email sent by the Alliance of Black Women Accountants to their members. Although it references both Cal CPA and the CBA in the context of the email, the CBA did not participate in this information gathering exercise, and it was prepared by Secretary Treasurer Batchelor and issued by ABWA. Also, I ask that members refrain from providing comments or questions during Secretary Batchelor's presentation. Once she finishes her presentation, I will lead the discussion with members, and then at that time, members may elect to respond to the questions posed in the presentation slides or share any other comments or questions. Secretary Batchelor, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, President Lotta. And I wanted to say that I did put this presentation together myself, and I have to say that since I was out on an island by myself, I solicited President Lotta to have another eyes on this presentation, because you know how sometimes when you're working on a project, you actually need to have another set of fresh eyes to just in case you miss something or anything like that. She was gracious enough to take her time out to do it, and I wanted to publicly thank you for that, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Batchelor. Not a problem.
Okay. One thing that President Lotta said, and you know, in terms of her comments to me, is that I needed to outline the purpose of this particular presentation, because we have a set of board members here that has not heard my concerns in the past, over the past 2 or 3 years that I've been making about our candidates not having opportunities to get the proper experience they need for licensure. So during our January leadership meeting, I brought the issue up again in that particular meeting, and Mr. Executive Officer Franzella, Mr. Franzella reached out to Jason Fox of Cal CPA, and he discussed my concerns with him. And so Mr. Fox contacted me and asked if we can have further discussions on this. So we got together in a meeting on March 4th. And I'm happy to say that Denise Forming, the CEO and president of Cal CPA, she also joined us within this meeting. And she's also a member of the Alliance of Black Women Accountants, as well as I. And I'm going to refer to that organization as ABWA. So basically, the purpose of this presentation was to discuss the challenges that CPA candidates are facing in terms of, or I felt they were facing, probably still to this day. I know these type of challenges in gaining experience was happening at least over 20 years ago when I was going through the system. And so it's probably, and I said, well, before I have this meeting with Cal CPA, I would like to ascertain whether or not these challenges are still happening in today's candidates, with today's candidates. And what ABWA did is send out an email and they asking mentees to contact me in order for them to express any kind of challenges that they're facing, especially in terms of experience. And I made it very clear that their comments would be anonymous. And so that my face and my name would be the only one attached to my presentation. And these young ladies were gracious enough to send their responses in to me. So next slide, please. So the population polled were college students, career changers, and seasoned professionals in the accounting, finance and accounting. Now with the seasoned professionals, the email went out to not only mentors, but it also went out to mentees. And so therefore, some of the mentors say, well, can I tell my story? And I said, sure, you're welcome to. And so they had things that they wanted to say. And Mrs. Forming, as well as Mr. Fox, were very gracious in terms of listening. And because I promised the candidates that I would read their letters to them, and they were gracious enough to actually listen and adhere to them and take notes on the students. And I do have some of those letters with me, and because I wanted you to hear the voice of these particular candidates. And I'm going to read through them pretty quickly because I'm only allotted so much time. So the first letter I have is from a student. So these are the voices of our candidates. She says, hello, my name is X, and I'm currently a junior majoring in accounting at Cal State University, Los Angeles. I am also a member of ABWA, one of the biggest barriers I'm facing in working towards my CPA license is gaining relevant work experience early enough. Since California shifted from the 150 unit education requirement to the 120 plus 2 years of work experience pathway, gaining hands-on experience has become even more important. I've been applying to internships and entry-level accounting roles, but it has been challenging to secure opportunities as a current student. Many of these positions are competitive and most require prior experience, which makes it difficult to get started. I'll be graduating in winter of 2027, and I don't want to wait until after graduation to begin accumulating the required experience. I would prefer to start now so I can move forward in a more intentional and structured way, although this has been challenging. I remain committed to pursuing my CPA and continuing to seek opportunities that will allow me to gain meaningful experience while completing my degree. So that was the one student. Now, the next letter, and I'm going to read it quickly, is from a recent graduate. She says, to whom it may concern, while graduating summa cum laude from Clark Atlanta University, I balance my academic responsibility with work and campus involvement. Prior to graduation, I worked for 3 years as an accounts receivable accountant at X company. This helped gain hands-on industry experience while completing my degree. Additionally, I was an active member of the National Association of Black Accountants, which is NABA, Beta Gamma Sigma, and the National Council of Negro Women. Despite these achievements, I was not extended an opportunity with the Big Four accounting firms. This outcome was disappointing, but it does not diminish the discipline, leadership, and resilience required to excel in academics, work, and service. Instead, the experience strengthened my motivation to continue growing professionally and pursuing opportunities that recognize my dedication and potential. I would sincerely value the opportunity to build a strong, supportive alliance within the accounting community, one that actively recognizes and uplifts the achievements of young Black scholars. This would ensure equitable access to meaningful opportunities with the professional accounting field. And she signs it, sincerely, a resilient graduate. Last one is a career changer. Hello, Ms. Bachelor. Pursuing my CPA license has been both a professional and goal and a personal commitment to long-term career advancement in finance and accounting. However, I have faced several barriers, particularly related to obtaining the required qualifying work experience under a licensed CPA. One of the primary challenges has been securing CPA supervised employment while completing my academic requirements. Many entry-level accounting roles are either, number one, do not provide supervision under an actively licensed CPA, or two, require prior public accounting experience before hiring. This creates a barrier, and the experience is required to obtain qualifying CPA experience. Additionally, the current job market is highly competitive. Employers increasingly prefer candidates who have already passed one or more sections of the CPA exam, have internship experience with public accounting firms, or possess a master's degree in accounting. While I have and am diligently working towards my master's degree and work to strengthen my academic credentials, including advanced accounting coursework in auditing, accounting automation systems, and financial reporting, transitioning into a CPA track position has required strategic planning and timing. Another barrier has been balancing multiple professional responsibilities while pursuing licensure. As someone who has been an active duty military and worked while attending college full-time, managing tuition, living expenses, and professional development simultaneously, in fact, has limited my ability to pursue lower paid internships or unpaid experiential roles that sometimes provide CPA supervision. Networking access has also presented challenges. Many CPA track opportunities are filled through referrals or university recruiting pipelines tied to large accounting firms. As a non-traditional and career changer candidate, I have had to build those networks intentionally rather than benefiting from traditional campus recruiting channels alone. Finally, state-specific CPA requirements, including credit hour thresholds, ethics exams, and documented supervision standards, require precise compliance, ensuring that employment meets technical eligibility criteria. This adds on another layer of complexity when evaluating job offers. Despite these barriers, I remain committed to obtaining my CPA license. I have proactively addressed these challenges by pursuing advanced accounting education to meet the 150 requirements, seeking mentorship from licensed CPAs, and that means she's part of ABWA, and probably part of a society like Cal Society of CPAs, gaining experience in bookkeeping, tax preparation, and financial reporting, learning how I can prepare for the CPA exam, meaning she wants to get more involved in review courses, and targeting roles that provide documented CPA experience. These challenges have strengthened my resilience, discipline, and long-term strategic planning. Rather than deterring me, they have reinforced my commitment to earning the CPA designation and advancing into leadership roles within finance and accounting. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. As sincerely, and I'm not going to give her name. So those are actual live candidates that are struggling in this particular area to this day. And like I said, over 20 years ago, I saw it and I said, it's probably not happening today because the world has changed, but it's still there. It's probably been there for decades. And this is an area that I think the CBA should take control of, and as well as reinvent in a sense and make some changes. So next slide, please, is going to be possible solutions. If you can go to that slide. So that was the poll where I read the letters. That's the letter from Abba. So it's possible solutions. Yes, right there. So based on this, I came up with my own ideas. This is a profession that's very, very deep rooted in conservatism. So maybe some of these ideas that I have are way, way out of the box. So feel free to reel me in, just like President Lada is going to punch Vice President Aguilar to keep me under the time constraints during this presentation. So these are just ideas that I'm throwing out, but this is what the discussion is about. Idea number one. The G license should be automatic after exam passage, along with ethics and regulatory review requirements to be obtained. And there's a reason that I'm saying that, and it's going to be later on in the presentation, because it's going head to head with two other practicing license that's under the Department of Consumer Affairs. Idea number two, the attest license should be tied to experience through the college system to professions and as similar to professions, highly regarded professions, I should add, in law as well as in medicine. So, and you will see at the inside of this presentation that I'm going to go through the steps of what it takes to obtain a law license as well as a medical license. And colleges should be contracted, this is my theory, they should be contracted with firms, and the opportunity requirements for the students to only be students of that education institution. Case in point, let's say candy stripers. My sister was a candy striper over 40 years ago in high school. Los Angeles Unified School District was contracted with area hospitals, and all they had to do was be in the nursing program, and the bus came and picked them up and took them to the hospital, these candy stripers, and the hospitals welcomed them. To this day, after over 45 years, that type of experience that you need to be a nurse is still going on to this day. Now, moving on to the next bullet is audit. I believe that the audit courses at the colleges and universities, because that is a class that's being taught, it should be expanded to go more into practical practice. And that means field work, meaning that's physically going out to the firms that want to contract with the colleges and universities. They would go out to the firms. It doesn't matter. They don't have to interview. They don't have to network. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is be an accounting student in the accounting program at the university. And if they could start, say for instance, if they start in their junior year and they have to also meet these requirements in senior years, that's more than 500 hours that they can claim in terms of getting their attest license. Okay, so the next slide, please. That will be the functions of the general licensees. Okay, so you have two type of license structures. You have the attest license here within the Board of Accountancy, and you also have your general license. So I'm going to go by the requirements of the general license, because at a couple of slides ago, I had stated that the general license should be automatic after exam passage and ethics and regulatory review. So here's your steps to your work steps. Prepare and file tax returns for individuals and businesses. Conduct audits to ensure financial statements are accurate and compliant without signing a report, because general license are not eligible to sign a test engagement. General licensees can do financial planning, business management, consulting services, meaning in tax. They have strategies, tax compliance, different things like that. Oh, and they consist in the preparation of financial statements and reports. Okay, I'm gonna have to speed it up. Sorry about that. I just got poked. So then you have the enrolled agents. And so general licensees go head to head with enrolled agents. And the IRS, if you work for the IRS, you don't even have to take the test. That's for the enrolled agents. You obtain your P10 and you pay your fees and different things like that. And there is continuing education that you have to do to become there's hours that you have to meet to apply for the enrolled agents exam. But as I said before, if you have experience being an IRS agent, then you waive that particular criteria. Next slide, please. Now we're going to go to CTEC, and that's CTEC is, I'm sorry, that's the tax council, and to be a certified tax council, California Tax Education Council. And then what you do, there's steps to go into that. You complete 60 hours of classes, coursework. You apply for your CTECs, you take your exams, and then you apply proof, and then you get your P10. So that's what that takes to be that. And then there's areas that you can also maintain and to be in CTEC, but I'm not going to get into that. Then, so lastly, two highly regarded professions. One is to become a lawyer, and the other one is to become a doctor. I have lawyers in this room, so if I misstep, please put me back on track, please. Okay, so to practice to be a lawyer, I think we're going to have to move on to some more slides. Next. Okay, right there. All you need to do to become licensed as a lawyer in the state of California or any other state, you need a law degree, and you pass your bar exam. And that's typically how you become a lawyer. Step one, you get your 4-year degree. That's next slide, please. You get your 4-year degree, and you and that could be in any study. You don't have to do political science or anything like that. But the bar does encourage you to get a bachelor's degree in something that's close to that particular area that you want to study. Step two, next slide, please. You take your admissions test, and that's taking the LSAT. There's other tests you can take, but the preferred test is the LSAT. Next slide, please. Step three, you're going to earn your law degree. Law school is 3 years. And so once you complete your law degree, the next step is you take the bar exam. Next slide, please, which is step 4. Step 4 is the test. It consists of 12 hours. It's over a 2-day period. And once you pass your bar exam, you're a lawyer. So then all you have to do, next slide, please. Step 5, after you pass, you get sworn in and you take your oath, and you're an attorney. And so the thing about this particular profession, lots of your education, your experience is mock trials and different things like that while you're in law school. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, attorneys here in the room. And you can get externships, which we did explore that at one time because I had brought that particular area up. I said, what about externships for our candidates that cannot, are unable to get their experience? And that was a no-go, but I don't remember the reason why. And so anyway, that's the steps to be an attorney. I'm sorry to be moving so fast. I wanted to really, really elaborate on a lot of these steps, but I'm unable to do so. Next slide, please. For the medical profession, there's 12 steps to be a medical doctor. And so what I'm going to do versus talk about all these steps in here, I really divulge in on steps 9 through 12. Next slide, please. On step 9, you go through a residency. You have to go into medical school. And so then once you're in medical school, you're matched with a residency program. This residency programs consist of the National Resident Matching Program, and the slots are intense. However, if you saw in the presentation, I have it in red. It's called fair, the word fair. It's an orderly and fair mechanism for matching the preferences of the applicants to residency positions within that program. So that's what I really wanted to resonate, that it's fair, so that every single candidate has an opportunity to be a doctor. There's no barriers in place. Next slide, please. Step 10. Next, you graduate from medical school. Now, this is the one that really got me. Once you've earned your medical degree and you graduated from medical school, you're officially a doctor. Now, protection of the public is paramount for our profession. And I totally 100% agree with that. This particular profession, to be a medical doctor, you're holding life and death within your hands. And after finishing medical school, graduating, and passing the boards, you're a medical doctor. You can actually start practicing on people. The reason that you can do that is because while you're in medical school, once again, you're contracted with hospitals and doctors that have agreed to have a relationship with the schools in order for their candidates to gain the practical practice and experience they need to be able to practice medicine. If you practice medicine without having a license, you can be jailed. And then there's also the criteria on step 11. Please, next slide. There's also criteria where you can go into your specialties like neurology, orthopedic, podiatry, OBGYN, and different things. And that's a 3 to 7 year window, depending on the type of residency that you wanted to obtain to be a doctor. And however, so you do have that opportunity, and candidates know exactly how long it's going to take them in order to complete all of their goals. Step 12, which is the next slide, please. So that's just talking about more of the certification. So let's go to the next slide. And so now these are questions for this board and our profession. Okay, I'm 3 minutes. So I'm gonna wrap it. I just got hit again. Okay, questions for this profession. Do you believe that our candidates are less prepared than other professions? Now, I already told you about the medical doctors holding life and death in their hands, but no one has to sign them off. Everything that they gain is through their education, system. Do you believe our candidates are less prepared than other professions through the educational system and passage of our state-provided exams? Don't have to answer me now. I'm just going to get through these questions. If your answer is no, meaning you think our candidates are prepared, then do you believe that our students need to be signed off by other CPAs when other prominent professions do not require that? Next question. What reasoning do you think that the experience requirement was put in place in the first place? Next question, do you feel that that the experience requirement is open and fair to all? You already heard the letters from these candidates that I wrote. These are real, actual, this is their voice. Last step, should the experience requirement be updated or remain the same that has caused barriers for some candidates that has been in place 25, 50, and even possibly 125 years. So that concludes my presentation. I had a lot more to say, but I wasn't able to. I just got jabbed. So now, that concludes my presentation, and I really thank you for your time. And I just wanted to say that I did have a conversation with Denise Foreman on, which is Cal CPA President and CEO, on Tuesday of this week about this particular issue. She saw that this particular presentation was on the agenda. She could not be here today for other commitments, but she did say she was going to try to listen in. But Mr. Jason Fox is here. There's from Cal CPA. I'm pretty sure Mr. Fox probably have a few comments, but Ms. Forming did ask me this particular issue since our March 4th meeting has been talked about more. And now UC Irvine, which I had said it to President Latta as well as Executive Officer Mr. Franzella, UC Irvine is on board with this now, and they're going to be partnering with Cal CPA to develop a task force in terms of this particular issue. Now, what that task force roles and what they will be doing and what their responsibilities will be, I don't know at this point, but she did ask me if I would be part of the task force. I did tell her yes, as well as Ruben Davila, who's a professor in accounting, and he's also a CPA at USC. She's going to reach out to him and ask him, would he also be a part of this task force? So that's all I have for right now. And I'm going to turn this back over to President Latta. And thank you for not being so brutal.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Batchelor. I really appreciate the time you have put into gathering this information, the passion you have for this project, the proactive initiative you've had toward it as well. Apologies that you couldn't get through all the detail you want, but I do think members and the public got a good sense of the things you wanted to highlight and the reasons behind why you were discussing other professions. And thank you for sharing the letters. That was very enlightening as well. So don't feel too bad about that. We did have it in the materials, so I'm sure everyone here was able to read the detail of the materials, even though she wasn't able to get through all of that during her presentation. Before I open the discussion for members and then open it for public comment, I want to share some initial thoughts of my own. We are on the tail end of implementing new requirements for CPA licensure, and over the past few years, we have conducted surveys, led focus groups, and held numerous outreach events with a wide variety of stakeholders, including aspiring CPAs. Aspiring CPAs appeared open to or welcomed obtaining another year of experience in lieu of completing 150 units or completing a master's degree. I am also concerned if this were to move forward that we would lose credibility with the legislature. The CBA justified a reduction in education and an increase in the experience requirement that we stated would produce qualified candidates and continue protecting consumers. So returning to the legislature with another narrative could be challenging. Further, pursuing any new challenges before the new licensure requirements become effective could create confusion for our future applicants as well. Regarding the other professions that are listed in the presentation, I believe the CPA profession is different, specifically from the enrolled agent and the California tax preparer certification. Their scope of work is much narrower than that of a CPA, so their requirements for registration match that limited scope of work. And also, a registration is fundamentally different than a license as well. I also asked staff if we received calls or emails from applicants expressing difficulties in obtaining experience, and I was informed it is rare. I have also noticed that during the recent outreach event, staff have added a focus on how to obtain experience, mentioning internships and the VITA program as some examples. These are obviously more desirable for aspiring CPAs presently in school and not necessarily those who are changing careers. Additionally, I just wanted to share my experience. I was an accounting degree candidate. However, my GPA was not stellar due to some challenges earlier in my college career. And I did not have an internship as well, but I was able to obtain my experience fairly easily. 2 months after graduation, I secured a full-time offer. And so my journey was without challenge for the most part in terms of obtaining my experience. So I didn't have that personal barrier, even though I didn't do all the things I was supposed to, like having an internship and having a stellar GPA. So I just wanted to offer that just for a different perspective. Next, I want to say that in my view, I think access is generally available, especially from the public accounting perspective. It is systematized to provide that opportunity for candidates to gain experience, especially since most firms want their candidates to get licensed. And in terms of the private sector, while the path isn't quite as direct, we do have the CPA license lookup tool now, which is something that probably didn't exist at the time Ms. Bachelor was obtaining her experience. So that is something that could mitigate the issue of your supervisor not being actively licensed, and you kind of can do your due diligence and ensure that the person who has agreed to supervise you is actively licensed so you can obtain that experience. Additionally, I'll say, while I don't agree that the experience requirements need to change, I do believe that there are access issues as evidenced by Ms. Bachelor's letters that she shared. It is very disheartening to hear that currently, right now, for students, for recent grads, for career changers, there are these challenges that still exist. And so I do think that we should do our best to gather any additional information, more data, possibly in addition to the ABWA survey, perhaps surveying a larger group of people, perhaps that could be something CalCPA could assist with, and better identify these areas where support is needed. Some were highlighted today. There may be additional areas that we don't know support is needed. So I think that, this task force could be a great step in that direction. And the universities, firms, and accounting associations are, I think, the best place to start with that. In addition, I just wanted to close with saying that, hearing these letters, Black people specifically have been systemically excluded from financial professions and financial literacy and education in general, and I'm sure that can be true of other minority groups as well. So I do think that this does highlight that, and it is something we should think about as a profession and work on solutions from that perspective rather than changing the experience requirement. And I had one final thought. I think my final comment is just that while we should definitely address these access issues through professional avenues within the current licensure requirements, that we do need to prioritize consumer protection above all as we have this conversation and think about paths forward. So with that, I think I will go ahead and turn it over to members about comments on this topic. Ms. Thompson.
First, Ms. Bachelor, thank you very much for putting this together. I recognize you've been working on this for 4 or 5 months. That's a significant amount of time. So thank you for your presentation today. I think you drew a lot of really interesting comparisons in the slide deck, and I just kind of wanted to go over my notes and my thoughts on some of the items that were laid out. Your first idea was sort of this automatic G licensure after graduates were to pass the CPA exam, the ethics exam, and the regulatory review requirements. My hesitation in an automatic licensure is that the experience requirement is really designed to help candidates develop professional judgment, ethical decision-making, and just practical experience in applying our professional standards on the day-to-day. And I think that type of experience or analysis is hard to replicate in a purely academic setting. Law, attorneys have an additional 3 years of schooling where the curriculum is really designed for this experiential learning through mute court, through clerkships and externships. And I think, that 3-year additional curriculum can be a very fair substitute for the 1 or the 2-year CPA experience. Medical professionals have even more. They have a 4-year schooling. They have a 3 to 7 year residency. And I think that is really designed to substitute our CPA 1 or 2 year experience requirement. The sort of second idea was to tie in attest experience into current undergraduate curriculums. And while I like the idea, I'm certainly open to it if a university or if a college wanted to pursue that. I think the board needs to be careful on what our scope is and what our scope limitations are. The California board can be very influential, obviously, here in California, and even nationally through NASBA. But I think if the board were to try to assert sort of a really enhanced and revised, expensive, quite honestly, curriculum change at a national college and university level, that would be a serious uphill battle. And I don't know if it would be met with a lot of reception. The undergraduate infrastructure today, as it relates for an accounting major, is really focused in academia. And when we look at what a pre-law undergraduate degree looks like, or what a pre-med undergraduate degree looks like, those themes are truly rooted in academia. There are no experiential, or very limited, I should say, experiential opportunities at an undergraduate degree. So it's not specifically limited in an accounting profession. I do hear the frustrations of those candidates that you interviewed, or the candidates that at least responded to the survey. And I think that those are very fair frustrations. I'm a little surprised to hear sort of the credentials that some of these candidates have and their challenges in getting challenges in getting this experience. Obviously, my perspective is limited. I work at a Big Four. I've been at a Big Four my entire career. I've been surrounded by CPAs, and the experience requirement has not been difficult to fill. I can appreciate that career changers especially are going to have an uphill battle. There are honestly limited focuses in recruiting at especially Big Four when it comes to career changers. That is just an industry challenge as it, to begin with. A lot of firms recruit through colleges via undergraduate programs. So unless you're being funneled through that directly, I can appreciate that the experience challenge is going to be really, really difficult. And I do think that as a board, we might be able to work with our interested parties, other industry groups, to kind of help highlight alternative experience opportunities better to those candidates that are not getting kind of fueled through this undergraduate pipeline. I can certainly appreciate that needs to be an improvement. The other commentary that sort of jumped out at me was all US jurisdictions that license public accountants have an experience requirement. They have a 1 or 2 year experience requirement. So if California were to consider removing our experience requirement for a G license, we would be the only jurisdiction to do that. And that gives me pause because I don't know if we want to be that outlier. And I don't know if that is really in the best nature of consumer protection, given that every other state board feels like the experience requirement is still valuable and required. So those are just my observations, and I will turn it over back to President Lada.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Ms. Zelensky?
I wanted to thank Ms. Batchelor for such a thorough presentation and the information that she provided to us. As an attorney licensed in California, I wanted to give that point of view. And I think Ms. Thompson made a really good point that in lieu of the experience, attorneys do go through a 3-year program, licensing, ethics, etc. One thing that you didn't mention is that an attorney can, instead of getting a Juris Doctor, a JD, they can do an apprenticeship. And I think it's approximately the equivalent of 4 years, several hundred hours, if they don't go to law school, and then the state bar works with them to make sure that this apprenticeship is appropriate and they're learning certain things. So I think that is probably more of like the one-to-one likeness for this experiential requirement for CPAs. I guess I agree with Ms. Thompson. It's there are certainly very many barriers, and I agree. I see it in the legal profession just getting a job, especially women of color, BIPOC. Um, and I think that's what's really important about like outreach, what the CBA does, and a lot of affinity groups. I guess I don't really have a suggestion, but I just wanted to give the point from the legal profession.
Thank you, Ms. Zielinski. Ms. Hines?
Again, thank you for your commitment and dedication to this issue. And I do believe that our board has expressed in other ways that we have a commitment to ensuring that barriers to, prospective licensees are addressed, because we are seeing a decrease in the number of individuals who are seeking to come into the accounting profession, and particularly individuals who are interested in becoming specialized, looking at the attest license. I think it is important to this industry to stay, committed to, addressing barriers when they're raised, and particularly where there are systemic barriers to particular populations becoming accountants. I think that's so important. So thank you for your work and for keeping this issue front of mind. Also, as a licensed attorney, I wanted to, sort of chime in. I think the comparison to the legal profession, while it feels natural because it is a licensed profession, I think it is different, because attorneys, while once you get your license, you technically are permitted to practice whatever you want to practice and in whatever way you want to practice. Ethically and professionally, that's not the way that it works. If you want to practice in a particular area, when you're in law school, you have to take certain steps to make sure that you get the experience that you need in order for you to be able to obtain employment or to hang out your shingle, ethically, professionally once you graduate. So while it's not, this experience requirement is not baked into your licensure, there is some expectation that you will gain experience in the particular area that you want to practice in, whether that's while you're in law school, getting internships or getting summer jobs and things like that, or after law school, finding, a first year, employment in a firm or with, another attorney, or maybe in government where you can start to gain some experience. I really think that when we're talking about how do we address challenges to experience, we really should be looking at other technically specific industries. So I think the comparison to the medical profession is a good one, because all of the healing professions and healing arts have some kind of experience practicum requirement built into their licensing process, because some technical practice is required. It's required of, obviously doctors, it's required of nurses, it's required of clinicians, therapists, licensed clinical social workers, all of those professions which are licensed under the umbrella of the DCA. They all have practicum experience requirements. I think also looking to, in terms of preserving that expectation of experience, looking to other technical licensed professions, like say architects, is helpful. In order to become a licensed architect, you have to go through some combination of schooling and supervised practice. That's the equivalent of, I think it was 8 years, so 5 years can be, educational and 3 experiential, or as little as 1 year educational and 7 experience, similar to the way the attorneys, are able to become attorneys without going to law school. But I think that because of the technical nature of accounting, and similar to, like I said, architecture, it is important to say, real world experience is required in order for you to be able to really say that you can practice and represent someone properly. How you get that experience, I think that's what we're talking about, and whether or not our board has a responsibility or a role in making sure that the ability to obtain that experience is not being limited or prescribed for particularly for certain populations of folks. And I'll just circle back, as we're trying to think about how do we ensure more people want to become accountants, I think looking at how to preserve that experience, but also make sure that it's as open and accessible to everyone, it really is incumbent upon our board to make sure that we're really being committed to and really focused on making sure that we're not allowing barriers to stay in place. So thank you again for keeping us aware of this. And I do look forward to us, following up with some ideas about how do we address your second, or I think your third bullet point, which is the reasoning for the experience requirement. Like, why do we have the experience requirement, and what are we looking to gain from it? And how do we make sure that it's not, there aren't inherent barriers built into it?
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Ms. Ward?
Thank you. I want to first say your presentation was great. I loved it. I think I have a different point of view being a public member. One, you have dental in here. Where's dental? No one cares about teeth. You need your teeth. But we always wish we number one, just number one. But I did read over your information, and so if I understand right, I think I asked this question a couple years ago when I was on the board. I'm still here. A couple years ago, this board does not do rules, regulations for curriculum, I'm assuming, because medical and dental nursing, they do. And that's where we're able to capture that. So California leads the way most of the time, right? So in the health field, in dentistry, people came, students, instructors, and said, hey, we don't want to take the hands-on clinical portion anymore. It's unethical, blah, blah, other things. So we said, that's crazy. California, the only state who said yes. 2 years now, there's been no backlash. Other states are saying, why would you do that? But we were the first state to say that students can graduate and go to work from school, no longer taking a clinical board, which is what you're saying in your option one, graduate and go to work. Other states have not followed suit yet, but there's been no problems with the dentists here in California. The rate has went up because we're still short staffed. So I'm jumping, but I thought about when I first started on this board, how there was a short of CPA. Students don't want to go and get involved. Why? Let's find out why. But if reading this, if you're telling me that I go take all these classes and now it's going to be based upon me finding the chance of finding somewhere to go do my hours, that's risky. Because what if I don't find a place? All this education I did, I didn't find a place to go do my hours. I wasn't accepted. That's too risky for me to even try to be a CPA. But if I knew without a doubt I would graduate and find a job and then work from there, I can do that part. So I think your option one is a great idea. Again, being the first one to change, doing something in California, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. If it's something that helps people, helps students meet the barriers, because there are barriers out there. And although you have the 4 letters, I'm sure there's more you never hear about. They just change careers and just move on and do something different. So at that point, are we taking away a dream from someone because we don't face the barriers for them? If we're not part of the curriculum, a school, they make a lot of money. They make too much money, and people don't get paid to work there enough. So they can change that curriculum if need be. If they want to be part of producing CPAs in California, then please add this on. The medical and dental, all this is done while you're in school. So my students have to go out and get their hours in community health, going out to a dentist's office while they're in school. So when you graduate, you're competent, ready to go to work. There's not graduating and let's see if you do good, because their life is in their hand, their life. So how do you have this board require so much, and there's no life or death, but you let a dentist, a hygienist, a doctor go out and just believe and trust, you're good to go. You're good to go. Go to work without asking for extra hours. I can't imagine graduating a hygienist and now you go to work under another hygienist to sign off for you. I just went to school for 4 years. I bet I'm not. No, I'm done. I've done everything I need to do. All my tests, I've passed everything. So how does that look for the students here? all that education, all that school, and I got to go through a couple more hoops again to do the basics. And then if I read it right, you're saying someone at the IRS who didn't go to school, just working there, can go through some steps, some more years, and do the same job, if I'm understanding right. From working at the IRS, I got a family who worked there. I'm just saying, that's my family, but come on. The IRS, I'm from Fresno, and that's where the main, it was based there, right? Stop it. I need you to go to school. Go to school, please, and get the full education out of it. That's on the job training right there. So I do believe what you're saying is so valid, so valid. And I was against California dropping that test, but it's been 2 years now, and I get it now. But at first I was like, no, it's going to change our standards. We're going to look like we're being lower, we're lowering the hygiene profession. But it hasn't. So I have to go back on my word. So maybe other states will follow suit. I say drop the national exam. You guys have the same test. I think I brought this up before, but boards don't want to drop that yet. If I went to school for 4 years, what do you test me on now? You just got through testing me for 4 years of education. So I think it's changing. Professions are changing. And this might be the change that's this time. My own personal opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Ms. Tu?
I just want to clarify something. CTAC, training also, that's only for tax preparation. CPA has much larger breadth of responsibilities and so forth. So I'm wondering if we can compare apple to apple or apple to orange at this point.
Yes, well, with CTEC, it is just tax. However, when I was a CTEC provider before I became a CPA, and I also had an accounting degree. So what I would do, I would operate just like as if I was a CPA. I was doing taxes. I wasn't limited to the scope of what type of taxes I could do. The only thing that I could not do as a CTEC is go and present my client before the IRS. However, now with the accounting, say for instance, it was an S corporation, an LLC, or something like that, and they needed to have their financial statements prepared and different things like that, I was able to do that. So I actually was operating in the channels of a CPA, even though I was not a CPA. So that's where it's come from. And in terms of the enrolled agents, they are same with them. If they have an accounting background, they are competent enough to do the job, as well as they can, as with CPAs and attorneys, they can go and represent before the IRS. So that's what the enrolled agents do. And that was the only reason that I put those two professions in there, is just to see that they can take the steps as the general licensed CPA without the title of CPA, but they can do the same task.
Mr. Aguilera?
Thank you, Ms. Batchelor. A couple of thoughts. One, then the enrolled agents can continue to be enrolled agents and do tax returns or do what they can do. With regards to the medical profession and the legal profession, they have to have an undergraduate degree first and then additional years of education. So in that way, it's replacement of the experience requirement. We recently went through the legislative process and focused heavily on the regulations to become a CPA. And one of the valuable inputs was the survey that staff did, and there were 1,000 or more participants who are stakeholders, professors, practitioners, accounting firms. And what they told us is that they really valued that experience, that less education would be fine, but we want the experience. And then where that leaves us today is, if I'm having a hard time getting the experience, I can take one more year of education and reduce that to just 1 year of experience. But it's clear that, so then I think what you're suggesting is a couple of things. We change the regulations to eliminate the experience requirement, or we make it easier to get the experience, or that we facilitate the opportunity to get the experience. So in the first case, I don't think there's any need for the board to change the regulations. And that's really the scope of our involvement. One of the things that we have done, though, with regards to making it easier to get the experience is that you can volunteer while you're in college, maybe even in high school, for programs like VITA or whatever else, wherever else, or have an intern and start getting your experience requirement. Yes, it does have to be under CPA, and I think that's a good thing. And then lastly, what is completely outside of our scope is providing opportunities to get that experience. So by having Cal CPA form this task force, if that's what they're going to do, and having you on it, I think that's fantastic. But I think that's completely outside of any action that the board should take. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice President Aguilera.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Secretary Treasurer
Okay,
Batchelor.
well, I just wanted to speak on those points. First of all, within this presentation, I'm not trying to eliminate the experience. The experience is very, very valuable. I've been a CPA for a number of years, and just being out there working with professionals and even having colleagues, there might be something that I don't know or area that I wanted to practice in. I have to go get some more education as well as experience in it. So I'm not saying that we should eliminate the experience. What I am saying, though, is that we needed to come up with opportunities for candidates, not one candidate to be left behind, because obtaining the degree in accounting or preparing to be able to sit for the CPA exam is quite expensive. So that's one cost. The next cost is all the study time. Studying for the CPA exam, and now when I took it, the parts were not nearly as expensive to sit for that exam as what it is today. So that's another investment. And then if you cannot get your experience, we're tying the experience to business owners. And these business owners have a bottom line. And what their bottom line is to make money for their for-profit companies. With this economy today, it's very, very difficult for candidates, even college students and other professions, to get hired. I was looking at a segment on, I love CBS Sunday mornings, and it's a news broadcast that talks about art, real world events, current events, different things like that, entertainment industry. They had 4 college students on there. And all these 4 college students were not able to find jobs after graduation. And so 2 of them did finally find jobs, and they're not even working in the area that they went to school for, and 2 others are still seeking employment. They're called entry level, and no one's hiring. And that's because the economy is so bad. Our profession, unlike those other professions that I had mentioned, are tying our candidates to the workforce. So it all depends on what's happening in the economy, on whether or not our candidates can have the experience that they need to be CPAs. And so this is the reason I said it should be tied to the educational institutions. And how that would look, I don't know. With this task force that I've been asked to be on, maybe we'll have a better look at how that's going to work, because this is all new. But it's actually unfair for our candidates it's a gamble in a sense. When I had loved audit, and I wanted to be an auditor, and I wanted to have a tax practice. And so when I took my Boeing, actually was the bulk of my audit work. And so the Board of Accountancy, when they looked over the records, and they said, well, you need a month and a half more in audit. But the problem was I got laid off from Boeing. So a month and a half, what is that, 45 days. Now, why that particular licensee person, this was connected with the CBA, said I needed 45 more days in planning, I don't know. So what I started to do, I went on a big campaign and I was asking firms if I could work for free, intern, and just do the planning. No one would take me, not one soul. And so therefore I said, okay, no one's willing to, put me in for 45 days. I said, so I'm going to go get a master's degree. So I went and got a master's degree in taxation. I said, because I know when you go to school, this is in my thinking, not the Board of Accountancy, but the Big Four, at the time it was the Big Six, they usually do on-campus recruiting. So of course, on-campus recruiting came, didn't get picked up. That was a lot of money that was spent for that master's degree. And after 6 months after graduation, then you have to start back paying the piper. So if we have, we'll say bachelor's degree students that have a big student loan because they did get their bachelor's degree in accounting, and then now 6 months later, they still can't find a job, they have to start paying for that bachelor's degree. And it's very, very difficult if college graduates in any profession, these particular students that were featured on that program, they're not accounting majors. They were in all other type of majors, and they're having difficulty finding a job. I'm trying to get our profession, our candidates, not tied to the workforce, not tied to the economy. Let them be tied to another resource in order for them to gain their experience. And I think the experience is great. It was great for me, and it's still great for me. Even each and every year, I learn something different. The laws, rules, regulations, even in tax, changes all the time. You have to be up on that in order for you to serve your clients and not send them to a doctor after you've fumbled and caused a coronary of some sort. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you for your additional comments, Secretary Treasurer Batchelor. Are there any additional comments? Okay, I just wanted to make sure there were no first-time comments before Ms. Ward.
Yes. I just wanted to add, you say barriers, like I mentioned before, dental hygiene students don't take the clinical boards because they said it was a barrier. You graduate and I have to pay for exam, that's $1,400. So they took it away as another thing. The national boards, Delta Dental paid for all the students this year, $600, because it's a barrier for them to get their license. You went to school for 4 years. And also to Mr. Agler's comment, fun fact, degree is not required to go to dental school or medical school. It's not just taking the prerequisites, 90 units. Most students do have a degree. We don't have to have a degree. So how CPA jump through all these hoops and you can take your courses and apply to medical school, get in, and be a doctor with no bachelor's degree.
Thank you,
Just
Ms.
saying.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Any additional member comments? Okay, seeing none. I have 15 more minutes to take public comment here in Sacramento if anyone would like to approach. We do have a hard stop at 1 p.m. for any public comments.
I don't want, excuse me, Jason Fox, the Cal CPI. I don't want to stand between you and lunch and a busy afternoon. This is a very healthy conversation. So just a couple items. So CalSPA's job is to support the profession. A big part of supporting that profession is supporting our students, candidates, aspiring CPAs, and helping them get through that entire process, whatever that looks like. When we hear friction points that Ms. Batchelor and others have alluded to, whether it's within the education space, the exam space, or the experience space, we want to figure out how can we support those folks? What do they need? What programming can Cal CPA and the profession do? We do that from a profession standpoint, and that's kind of our obligation, how we support our folks. We also work with this board on kind of the regulatory framework that our members and our students operate within. We've spent a lot of time and energy the last couple of years to create a regulatory framework and a licensure framework that balances that accessibility into the profession, but also balances that consumer protection, which is a priority for the board, priority for Cal CPA as well. Where we cannot support is blowing up that regulatory framework from a standpoint of trying to create additional accessibility that without having done the homework and thought through it. And so I think from our standpoint, and what Ms. Batchelor's alluded to, we see as a profession obligation, candidly, to figure out how can we better support those from all walks of life, backgrounds and whatnot, to be able to make it through the existing space. But we view that as a responsibility of working within the existing kind of regulatory structure that, again, is appropriately balanced for accessibility and consumer protection. Where we cannot support is kind of some of the items that Ms. Batchelor alluded to on the regulatory solutions. I think there are potentially other solutions that we would like to explore from a profession standpoint. What does that mean to support students, candidates, make sure that they do have the opportunities? There are a lot of firms that are hiring. They're just not hiring, there's got to be better matchmaking. And there's things that we could do from a Cal CPA standpoint from there. And so those are things I think we're going to take the friction points and other things that Ms. Batchelor, and I appreciate her being a very vocal and passionate champion for this and raising those issues. But I think those are our responsibilities, and we don't believe those are the board's responsibilities. And I don't think it's appropriate for this board to start entertaining for very, very significant regulatory changes at this point without having, let's see what we could do from the profession standpoint before we go that, particularly having gone through just a very extensive conversation and work to modernize the education, the exam's been changing and whatnot. And so those are my comments, and appreciate the board conversation and happy to have conversations with anyone now or after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Ms. Tu?
Mr. Fox, I believe the Cal CPA have student membership too that are either free or extremely reduced. So there shouldn't be any financial barrier for the networking opportunities.
Yeah, student membership is free. We have a candidate membership that's free and then goes into a low cost. And we have a number of programs that support students' candidates. We partnered with ABWA to bring a number of their organization to a women's leadership forum that we had, and a lot of them ended up with jobs and opportunities out of that. And so we have a lot of program that's specific to students.
Yes, because every time we go on any campus, my day job, I do a lot of advocacy as well. And so as you know, I task you on, are you doing everything you can to create, take barrier off, and especially for student and our candidates that are minority and or woman populations. So,
Thank you, Ms. Tu. 1 second, let me just check with council if it's okay to continue with these member comments at this point, or do we need to move back into member comments?
If public wanted, you can continue to take public comment and just make sure that they're on topic, and it's fine to put time limits on the amount of time as long as you provide the same amount of time to everyone if you're going to put limitations on it. But did that answer your question?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure we could go back and forth between the members questioning the public about their comments specifically.
It's different when the member is asking the question of the person who provided the public comment versus the public comment person asking a board member a question, and then that turning into a back and forth.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Thompson, did you have a direct question for Mr. Fox?
Okay. Yes, I do. I just want to make sure I could ask it. Does Cal CPA, I'm curious if Cal CPA has like more of a direct pipeline or strategic relationship with the recruiting leads at public accounting firms?
We do. We have a committee that's comprised of recruiters with firms, also academics and again, talks about a lot of the issues and challenges and how do we support that transition from the education space to the employment internship space. And so we do have avenues to talk about those issues.
Okay. Is it more from like a theory or practice perspective that you're teaming with recruiting, or is there access for like direct candidates to go through Cal CPA to then be funneled to recruiting?
Okay, sorry. I think I gather your conversation. So we do talk about how do we streamline to the communication between those two groups. That's certainly a conversation. How do does that inform our programming initiatives and whatnot? We do have a job bulletin board that we try to do, and then we also show up at a lot of schools have meet the firm nights. I know the Board of Accountancy is also a participant in those, and we try to serve as that conduit of like, we are not a hiring, but we will help you match to the right firms that are hiring and the resources to make you a strong candidate, whether it's helping with the resumes or interview process, all that sort of stuff. And so we try to help with the matchmaking on that.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Are there any additional public comments here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, are there any members of the public online who are wanting to make a public comment on this item?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. And it looks like we do have a request from Kent Absek. And Kent, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak. Please click on the unmute me button when the request appears on your screen. And Kent, if you are speaking, you're still currently muted. I'm going to request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears. Oh,
I think
maybe unmuted.
I think I double clicked.
No worries. We can hear you now.
Thank you. Thank you, President Lotta. Thank you, members of the California Board and Executive Officer Dominic Franzella. I'm Kent Absek. I'm the Vice President of State Board Relations for NASBA. And I thank you for allowing me to speak today. First of all, I would like to commend the passion of Board Member Batchelor and for her presentation. As the State Board Relations, I work very closely with all 55 jurisdictions within the U.S. footprint. And I would just like to ask the board members to consider the following on any decisions that you make. And of course, this was brought out by others, but any proposed changes would need to make sure that you consider the impact on the protection of the public. Any modification should be evaluated on how they serve the public best. The second thing that I would like to remind the board, and Board Member Thompson started down this path when she said that other jurisdictions have an experience requirement. Yes, they do, but they also have two other requirements, and we call those the 3 E's, of which licensure, reciprocity licensure, and mobility are based on. And those requirements are the examination, education, and experience. And the impact to a California licensee getting a reciprocal license or mobility needs to be considered should there be any drastic changes to your current experience requirements. Section 23 of the UAA, which a majority of our jurisdictions have adopted, particularly those that have gone forward with legislation in 2026, they talk about those 3 E's, the guardrails of passing the exam, having a degree with an accounting concentration, and then depending on that degree, having either 1 or 2 years of experience. And essentially removing or doing drastic changes to those 3 E's could force other jurisdictions to have discussions about disallowing those licensed without experience or very limited experience to come into their state. And even to take it a little bit further, depending on how far a state goes, I know there are particular jurisdictions that say if they don't feel that another state is doing something that would be comparable or is doing something, I don't want to call this drastic, but that doesn't align with the pathways, and it could be a new pathway, they could potentially restrict all California licensees from coming into their state without some kind of evaluation. And of course, that is not the most efficient. So while the experience issue that Board Member Batchelor talked about, it is real, be thinking about what the impact could be on others if there are some changes done and the consequences that could happen with your current licensees as well. And finally, President Lott, I would just match it up. I agree with my friend, Mr. Fox from Cal CPA. I do believe this is an issue for Cal CPA to work on, and with the work, as you mentioned, that has been done with the new pathway in the last couple of years, it would be very difficult, I think, for you to go back and now ask for any kind of changes to that. So with that said, thank you, President Lotta, for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Mr. Absack, for contributing to this discussion. At this time, are there any additional public comments on WebEx?
This is the moderator. There are no further comments on WebEx.
Wonderful, just in the nick of time. So go ahead and close the WebEx for public comment at this time. And I just want to go ahead and close this item by saying thank you to Ms. Batchelor again for your extensive efforts towards this presentation and bringing this discussion to the board. I think we've had a wonderful discussion amongst members, amongst the public, input from NASBA as well on the national level, which is very important. After hearing this discussion, it doesn't appear that there's overwhelming support for the CBA to pursue any changes to the existing experience requirement. However, I am excited to hear about the ideas and the thought process and the actions from Cal CEPA's perspective, and the establishment of this task force that you're going to be contributing on is a primary means to address these issues. And I'm excited to hear updates on that and, you know, see how that evolves, and hopefully we can start addressing some of these access issues in terms of getting experience. So with that, I will go ahead and adjourn us at 12:58. We'll go ahead and take our 1-hour lunch break, and we can take 45 minutes instead of an hour if that is preferred. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Of course, Mr. Rafel, always with the decisive answers for us. So yes, we'll go ahead and do a 45-minute lunch break. So we will be back here at 1:43. Or can we do 45? Okay, 1:45. Okay, good afternoon. Let's get started with resuming our meeting. So we will pick up at item 2A, the report of the president. And I will begin my president's report with our standing agenda item to recognize activities celebrating the CBA's 125th anniversary. And we actually are celebrating with some cake today, so that's a nice start to the second half of the day. Today's update covers the activities that have occurred since the May meeting. I've already shared with you several of the activities we have undertaken during the early part of the year. You can see these earlier activities from the year highlighted in the paper. Update issue 109 was released in late May and contained information about the formation of the California Board of Accountancy and its early years through 1945. It also contained a timeline of major milestones from those years and other historical items, including a map of the 1906 San Francisco fires and where the board's office was at that time, and the text of the original law establishing the board in 1901. Staff is currently working on Update 110, which will be out before the September meeting and will feature information about the board's transformational second period of its history, from 1948 to 1993. This includes adoption of the uniform CPA examination and the formal inclusion of an ethics examination requirement. Staff is finalizing a video that highlights the CBA's role in ensuring consumer protection and the importance of the accounting profession to the state's economy and business community. We would like to thank Cal CPA for their assistance in helping us find accounting firm locations to film for the video and allowing us to film in their own beautiful office space, and to the firm Crow and their employees for opening their doors to us and happily giving their time to be a part of the video. The video will be available on the videos page of the CBA website very soon, and I encourage you all to check it out when it's released. 2026 has been an exciting year so far, and there's still more to come as we continue to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the CBA and the CPA profession in California. Do I have any member comments on this item? Seeing none, since everyone's still eating their cake, how about public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Please close public comment. Next, we will move on to item 2B, the American Institute of California Public Accountants Committee interest for the 2027-28 volunteer year. This item provides members with information regarding opportunities to participate on committees with the AICPA. AICPA announced on June 1st, 2026, it will begin accepting applications for the 2027-28 volunteer year. Those interested in serving on a committee for the 27-28 volunteer year should complete the online committee interest application no later than September 1st, 2026. To ensure that staff track CBA members' interest, please email Ms. Reed when you submit an application and provide the committees you are seeking appointment to. If you have any questions regarding AICPA committees, please also contact Ms. Reed. Do I have any member comments on this item? Seeing none, are there any public comments here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Please close public comment. Give me 1 second. Okay, so that concludes our item 2B. I will continue on to item 2C. This item is a resolution for retiring Enforcement Advisory Committee member Kathy A. Johnson, CPA. Can I get a motion to accept the resolution? Mr. Rafel, can I get a second? Mr. Aguilera, thank you. Ms. Reed, can you please, oh, sorry. Any member comments or questions on this item?
Yeah.
Mr. Aguilera?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Kathy personally, if she's listening or if she knows about this. But in any case, Kathy put in a lot of time and effort to this committee and has always done so with good cheer and was incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Aguilera, for pointing that out. She has served the board on this committee for a very long time, and we appreciate her input. So thank you for reminding us to take time, and thanks for her service. Any additional member comments or questions? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed, please take the vote.
Member Aguilera,
Yes.
Member Bachelor, Member Dong,
Yes.
Member Guzman, Member Hines,
Yes.
Member Lotta,
Yes.
Member Lynn,
Yes.
Member Rayful,
Yes.
Member Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member 2,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
and Member Zelinski.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Now will we be moving on to item 2E, Department of Consumer Affairs Director's Report on Departmental Activities provided by Lucia Saldivar, our Deputy Director, Board and Bureau Relations, Department of Consumer Affairs. Please proceed with your presentation.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, board members and staff. My name is Lucia Saldivar, and I'm the Deputy Director of Board and Bureau Relations at the California Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a brief update from the department. Firstly, on May 12th, 2026, Governor Newsom announced the appointment of Rohit Chopra as Secretary of California's new Business and Consumer Services Agency, which officially launched this past July 1st. Secretary Chopra previously served as director of the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and as a commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission, where he led major efforts to crack down on junk fees, corporate misconduct, and unfair practices harming consumers and small businesses. We are so excited to welcome Secretary Chopra, and we look forward to carrying out our consumer protection mission under his leadership. Next, DCA, along with other state departments, transitioned back to 4 days a week in office on July 1st, 2026, consistent with the governor's executive order, which was originally issued to take effect on July 1st of last year. DCA issued a department-wide email with guidance surrounding telework agreements, and DCA wants to recognize the board leadership for their efforts and partnership as we work together to support all DCA staff. And lastly, we wanted to remind members that the next board member orientation training, also known as BMOT, will take place on October 21st. This is an all-day virtual training which must be completed by board members within 1 year of appointment and reappointment to the board. In addition, on May 26th, DCA launched its internal defensive driver training, which is now available on DCA's learning management system, also known as LMS. This training is mandatory for state employees, and that includes board members who operate vehicles on official state business. This is a 2-hour interactive session that covers safe driving practices and required forms for state travel, in addition to accident response procedures. Board members can register for BMOT and defensive driver training using LMS, but if any board members have questions on accessing LMS or if they would like to check if they are in compliance with any of the mandated trainings, please reach out to our team at memberrelations@dca.ca.gov. And this concludes my report. Thank you so much, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Saldivar. Do we have any comments or questions from members? Ms. Dong?
Oh, thank you for that presentation. For the defensive driving course, how often do we have to take that?
That course is required once every 4 years. So once you take it, you're good for 4 years. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any additional member comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. Any comments from members of the public? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. That brings us to item 3, which is the report of the Vice President. So I will turn it over to Mr. Aguilera for that report.
Thank you, Ms. Lauda. This item is to recommend the reappointment of Robert J. Rule, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. The Enforcement Advisory Committee assists the CBA in an advisory capacity with enforcement activities. This includes reviewing closed investigation files, providing technical guidance on open investigations, and participating in investigative hearings. I've conferred with the CBA executive officer to verify that he has met the appropriate requirements for license renewal and has demonstrated the skills and knowledge to serve as a member on the Enforcement Advisory Committee. I would like to make a motion to reappoint Robert J. Rule, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee effective through July 31st, 2028. And I'll now turn it back to President Lauda to ask for a second.
Thank you, Vice President Aguilera. Do I have a second? Mr. Rafel? Thank you. Any member comments or questions? Seeing none, any comments from the public here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Ms. Reed, please take the vote.
Member Zelensky? Yes. Member Ward?
Yes.
Member Two?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Member Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Member Rafel?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Lotta?
Yes.
Member Hines?
Yes.
Member Guzman?
Yes.
Member Dong?
Yes.
Member Batchelor?
Yes.
And Member Aguilera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Vice President Aguilera, please continue.
That is the end of my report today.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes the report of the Vice President. Moving on to item 4, report of the Secretary Treasurer. I'll turn that over to Ms. Batchelor.
Thank you, President Lauda. I'm Secretary Treasurer Batchelor, and I'm going to be speaking on our Secretary Treasurer's report. Provided for your review is the Secretary Treasurer report containing an update on the California Board of Accountancy budget for fiscal year 2026 and 2027. The governor signed the budget on June 29, and the CBA's budget authority for fiscal year 2026-2027 was finalized at an amount of $19,604,000. We are closing out the end of the fiscal year 2025-2026, and the final expenditures and revenues will be presented at either the September or the November CBA meeting. This concludes my presentation of the Secretary Treasurer report. I'm happy to answer and have staff available to answer any questions members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Batchelor. Do we have any member comments or questions? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento on this item? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, moderator. Moving on to agenda item 5, the report of the executive officer. We will start off with item A, which is review and possible action to approve proposed changes to the California Board of Accountancy member guidelines and procedures manual. And I will turn it over to our Chief of the Administration Division, Ms. Deanne Pierce.
Thank you. The CBA Member Guidelines and Procedures Manual, or GMP Manual, serves as a reference guide regarding the roles and functions of the CBA, CBA committees, and members. It was noted at the March CBA meeting that staff were working to propose a modernized and revised manual to be finalized at this meeting. At the March meeting, the CBA approved updates to the executive officer evaluation process and the CBA and committee member per diem process. That new language is included in the manual. In addition to those areas, staff made various updates which are detailed on pages 3 through 5 of the agenda item. There are a few items I want to highlight in the manual, which is included as attachment 1. Overall, we reorganized the flow of the information. It was previously in the numerical order of the statutory references. We updated the information on conducting meetings to, among other things, reference the use of WebEx for our CBA meetings. A new section was created to describe what to expect during the open session portion of the meeting, and this will complement the information contained for the section now titled Closed Session CBA Meetings. We consolidated the information for required training and policy acknowledgements, and we added links to statutory and regulatory references and made all but 2 of the appendices links as well. Staff recommend the CBA make a motion to adopt the revised and restated July 2026 CBA GMP manual. I'll turn it back to the president, and I'm happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Any member comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device.
Okay.
All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Yes, thank you. We actually need a motion on the table, so we're going to have to take those comments again. I have a first from Mr. Rafel. Do I have a second on this motion? Ms. Tu. Thank you. Any additional member comments or questions? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, moderator, please open WebEx for public comment one more time on this item, please.
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are now moving on to agenda item 5.
We get to vote?
Oh my goodness, yes, we have to vote.
The sugar get into your head?
I know, I think trying to speed through things, catching up on time. So yes, Ms. Reed, please take the vote.
Member Aguilera? Member Batchelor? Yes. Member Dong?
Yes.
Member Guzman?
Yes.
Member Hines? Yes. Member Lotta?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Rafel?
Yes.
Member Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Member Tu?
Yes.
Member Ward?
Yes.
And Member Zelensky?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Apparently I've had too much cake. I can't keep up. Okay, so we're going to move on to agenda item 5B, the administration activity report, and we will take public comments for items 5B through 5F after the conclusion of item 5F. So please hold your public comments until then. I will now turn it over to Christy Abate, the manager of our administration division.
Good afternoon, President Lotta and members of the board. My name is Christy Abate, Manager of the Administration Services Unit, and I will present the Administration Activity Report for you today. I'm happy to answer any questions members may have, but I wanted to highlight a couple items. The CBA currently has 98.9 authorized positions. Current staffing levels reflect a 6% vacancy rate, or 6 positions. We have 2 vacancies in administration, 2 in enforcement, and 2 in licensing, all of which are in various stages of recruitment activities. The CBA recently made enhancements to CBA Connect to incorporate the license renewal fee increase that applies to licenses expiring on or after July 31st, 2026, and shifted certain credit card transaction fees to licensees, which began July 1st, 2026. Finally, the CBA's rulemaking package has seen meaningful movement this cycle. Amendments to the disciplinary guidelines and model orders became effective July 1, 2026. Regulatory changes tied to Assembly Bill 1175, focused on enhancing licensure requirements and modernizing mobility, will be discussed under the regulations agenda topic, item 7A. In addition, licensing staff are developing proposed updates to continuing education and license status regulations, which will be presented at the September meeting and are intended to modernize and clarify the existing regulatory framework. I would like to close with a final remark. As mentioned in the July EO report, starting with the July CBA meeting, members will have the ability to submit their per diem and travel expense claims electronically using a personalized link that will be sent out in the reminder email that you receive after each CBA or committee meeting. Each link is unique to the individual member, allowing not only submission of meeting-related per diem and travel claims, but also reporting of eligible CBA activities completed outside of the formal meetings. For anyone who prefers traditional methods, physical worksheets will still be accepted. That concludes my presentation on this agenda item. I'll turn it back over to President Lara, and I'm happy to answer any questions the members may have.
Thank you, Ms. Abate. Do we have any member comments or questions on this presentation? Ms. Hines? I'm going to take member comments now, and we'll do public comments at the end. Your microphone, please, Ms. Hines.
Will, for the reimbursement claim, will the reimbursements be allowed to take previous, or will it only be related to the most recent meeting?
The link, that's a good question. I would say previous.
It'll allow you to add as many as you need to add.
Yeah.
to it.
Yes.
Yeah. You can go back if you had one from December or whatever. It's fine.
All right.
Oh, was that we'll say December. Wink, wink, wink.
Don't put my business out there like that.
Okay, any additional member comments on this item? Ms. Hines?
I did. I wanted to ask staff whether or not there had been any impact on the governor's return to office order, 4-day return to office order. I think we talked about this before, but I wonder whether there was any fiscal impact or whether there was any impact on staff, like for retention and recruitment or for culture, or any like impacts that are, related to that order. Yeah, positive or negative.
Fiscally, I don't think it has really any impact to us at this stage. I mean, we might need to adjust at, future for some IT things that people had at home or that would need to bring back into the office. Culturally, I'm hopeful that it's, obviously it's a big change for staff to come back in, but we worked with our team last year when we were thinking we were coming back and had a number of discussions with them. We had them again as we were getting ready for the month leading in to try to make as many accommodations as possible and be as flexible to their specific day, telework day. So at this particular point, I don't know if we'll really see what the overall impact is, obviously, until maybe in August or September when kids go back to school and how that kind of works. But our commitment to our team is to always make it as successful and culturally or address the culture pieces here in a positive way. So.
Thank you, Mr. Franzella. Ms. Tu?
Yes, Mr. Bader. And with regard to the credit cards transaction, I know renewal, you can do credit card. What are the area that you still cannot use credit card? I know with fees and not fees, but the fines, you cannot pay with credit card at this point. Are we in the process of making everything possible to be paid by credit card?
I'll jump in and respond to that. It's part of our overall business modernization project. So as we continue down this path and building on our current Connect system, that'll be one of the options that we add into that. So it's on our list of things to incorporate, but right now that's cost recovery and citation and fines is not something that can be paid by credit card through Connect. It's just not set up quite yet.
goal is to
Yeah.
have everything
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
Thank you. Any additional member comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Abate. All right, we will take the public comment at the end on this item, and we'll move on to item 5C, the Enforcement Activity Report, which will be provided by Corey Riordan, Deputy Chief Enforcement Division.
Thank you, President Lotta, and good afternoon, members. Today, I have the Enforcement Activity Report, which covers the first 11 months of the fiscal year. I'm going to highlight briefly the update on the compliance audits or the CE audits that are being performed by the CBA staff. The information is provided on page 7 of the Enforcement Activity Report. As announced during the May 2026 CBA meeting, the CBA has expanded its audits for renewal applications to ensure compliance with CE requirements. The new compliance audit program incorporates both an increase in the number of randomly selected applications and targeted risk-based scenarios, which are conducted by both enforcement and the licensing division. The enforcement division is focusing on risk-based scenarios, including licensees previously issued a citation and fine for a 2012 violation, licensees on probation, and those who renewed late. As of March 31st, the Enforcement Division selected 551 applications for audit. Of the 551 applications, 253 audits were found compliant and 189 were determined to be deficient. To bring more awareness to licensees regarding the audits and the CE requirements for license renewal, staff are working to expand messaging and increase outreach in this area. Additional FAQs, social media posts, articles in the update newsletter, and guidance in the monthly email to licensees are all in progress. That concludes my report, and I'll turn it back to President Lotta.
Thank you. Are there any member comments or questions? Mr. Rafel.
Thank you. So I made the mistake of paying attention when the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee met, and I got more confused than more satisfied with knowledge. Tell me what you think the difference is between a citation and a violation.
I can respond if you'd like.
Sure.
A citation is, so you can have multiple violations in a citation. So one citation can have a violation for failing to respond to the board, a CE issue, a unlicensed practice issue. So it could have 3 distinct violations. And so we're counting each one of those violations so that we're tracking what types of violations we're having. So you're not going to have a 1-for-1. So we don't issue a citation solely for CE. If there's 3 other violations going on, we'll do it under 1 citation.
Sorry, and is the monetary fines are assessed in both cases?
They would be assessed per violation. So sometimes you'll see ones where you'll get a citation and on the cover page, it'll say total fine $750. And you may have 3 distinct violations for failing to respond for $250, for having an ethics violation or an ethics CE violation for $250, and maybe even failing to report your CE appropriately for another $250. I'm just making things up, but each one can carry its own fine amount.
And we don't do warnings to people.
Yeah, every case is on an individual basis, and we do look at them. So like even when people violate the 20 and 12, Corey and Carrie and her team look at each one of those, and we might issue the citation, and if they submit something in at a later date, we'll evaluate that to make sure there's if there was any particular issue. 20 and 12 generally just go out like that, or we might look at it and say, well, this person's 1 hour short. This is a warning letter this time. Reemphasize the fact that this is important. And if you have future violations, that could result in an enforcement action up into a citation. So the team really does try to, or doesn't try, they do an excellent job of looking at each circumstance and then issuing a citation if it's warranted.
And then are citations Are individual licensees who have a citation against them publicized on the website?
Yeah, once a citation becomes final, then it's a public record and it's required by Business and Professions Code, I think 27, for us to post those on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hines?
I just wanted to reference that page 8 of their report lists the kinds of probation violations that were enforced over the last 11 months, I think it was. So just to give you an idea of what some of the trends are. Those are just for probations, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the citation data that we do report out is on page 5.
Mr. Rafel's question kind of brought a question to my mind. Does the website keep historical record, or once something is resolved, it's no longer visible under that license?
So with Business and Professions Code 27, and I think it started affecting us in and around 2015, what data we have to keep up or what information related to a license record that we have to keep up. Once a citation is final, once a disciplinary case is final, most of the proposed decisions, accusation, all those things go up and they're there forever.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Any additional member comments or questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation. We will move on to agenda item 5D for the licensing activity report, which will be provided by Patty Ritter, manager of the licensing division.
Thank you, President Latta. My name is Patty Ritter, and I want to begin by sharing an exciting announcement that the licensing division has been reorganized into 3 specialized units as of June 1st, 2026. The Client and Operations Support Unit, which I am the manager of, is a brand new unit created to handle all applicant and licensee inquiries and provide policy and operational support. The Entry and Eligibility Unit, managed by Jennifer Huddy, combines the former examination and initial licensing units and is responsible for reviewing and approving CPA exam and licensure applications and overseeing the new degree and certificate recognition programs. The combining of the exam and licensing activities into a single unit is facilitated by the educational requirement changes that were made via AB 1175. The final unit, the Renewal Compliance Unit, managed by Sarah Benedict, was formerly the Renewal and Continuing Competency Unit, focuses on conducting renewal audits to ensure compliance with continuing education requirements, and will expand its responsibilities to include auditing CPA firms for peer review, name changes, and partner and shareholder licensure obligations. We are excited for the new opportunities these changes will bring and how they will enhance the service we provide to stakeholders and reinforce our commitment to consumer protection. Now onto the Licensing Activity Report, or LAR, which covers July 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026. I just wanted to highlight the audits being completed by the Renewal Compliance Unit. The Licensing Division CE audits are randomly selected from active status CPA renewals with added attention to risk-based factors such as newly licensed CPAs or those with specialized CE requirements. That concludes my presentation, and I will now turn it back over to President Latta, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Tu.
What do you mean by specialized CE requirements? I never heard the term used.
If they're subject to ANA or governmental auditing, that type of thing. So,
Ms. Hines.
I'm also just rushing along. Sorry, Kate. Was the restructuring into the 3 different units tied to the strategic plan?
I don't know that it was specifically tied to the strategic plan. To be very honest, it's something that staff have wanted to do for many, many, many years, but it just wasn't able to complete that in an efficient manner until the changes that AB 1175 have coming with education. In other words,
Yeah.
the big part of reviewing those applications, education is only going to have to be done once in the future, since those requirements will be the same. And so that's allowed us to do that.
Yeah. So it may, even though it was unintentional, to me, there is a correlation between some of the elements of our strategic plan, and I'm not pulling them off the top of my head. But, you know, when we're thinking about, we've been talking about improving our relationship with licensees and stakeholders and, you know, things like that. This seems to fall right in line with some of those elements of the strategic plan. And I think it would be really beneficial to the staff and and the board to identify where that work falls within the strategic plan, so we can show that it was an effective improvement that was made. And even though it wasn't intentional, it seems like the strategic plan presented the creative environment within which to allow for this improved efficiency within the licensing division. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I just was wondering, in comparison to the previous structure, what are, other than, gained efficiencies, what are some specific expected benefits of the restructure?
Some of the restructuring is really allowing us to create an opportunity for some of our staff to do work that maybe they didn't do before. So for example, you've been a staff person assigned to review exam applications day after day. Now you get a little more variety in that work. Maybe you were a staff person assigned to answer calls from CPAs related to renewals. Well, now you get an opportunity to answer questions also from students or from other interested parties. So doing this allows us, I think, to add some variety to the daily work that our staff do. We've also been able to add some specific duties to individuals to really help support our projects. We have some big projects going on in my division right now, and I'm not sure that when the structure that we had previously really anticipated that type of work that we're doing. Some of these projects are multi-year projects, and we want an opportunity to put that work in front of staff so that they can gain the knowledge of how to do that, and we can really capitalize on the knowledge they've gained next time we have to do a long-term project. And we really weren't seeing that in the prior structure.
Thank you so much, Ms. Center. I appreciate the thought staff has gone through to establish these new units and give staff opportunities for growth. Also sounds like they're cross-training, which is, great for their careers as well, and also efficiencies for the staff as a whole. So that sounds really great. Any additional member comments or questions? Mr. Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I just have one. I don't know how I can reconcile the compliance audits in the enforcement report with the compliance audits in the licensing report, because they're both meant to be renewal compliance program audits. Are they not?
Rosenbaum, today I feel like you're really picking on me. I'm not seeing
I'm
your
so
questions
sorry.
come on anyone else's items. So, you can't reconcile them because they are different.
Yes,
But
something about the cohorts I didn't really follow.
right. So we are reporting out the audits that we do in our division in the LAR, and enforcement is reporting out the audits that that division is doing in the EAR. And then we will create an annual look at those audits across division, and we're going to do that in our trends report, which is currently scheduled to come in September. So that's the plan, is to have this annual look at the data compiled once a year.
So these are two different things going on. Okay.
Mr. Franzella.
They're not two different things. They're performed similarly so that we can report the data in a consistent way, but just from where they're originating and
right.
who's performing the work and the types of audits that are being done versus the risk-based versus the very much more random kind of approach is why they're separated out. But I noticed they put cohort at the top too. Enforcement doesn't say that, but it is captured
It
and
is.
documented in the same way.
The criteria that we review against is identical.
Thank you. Any additional member comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5E, the outreach activity report, which will be provided by Mick Murray, our outreach coordinator.
All right. Good afternoon, President Latta and members of the CBA. I'm Mick Murray, the CBA's Outreach Coordinator, and today I'll be presenting item 5E, the Outreach Activity Report. The CBA has officially concluded the 2025-26 campus tour. The final in-person event was held on May 19th at UC Davis nearby, and the final virtual appearance was held in partnership with Irvine Valley College, a community college based in the Orange County area, and that was on June 12th. In total, the fall and spring legs of the campus tour consisted of 12 on-campus events and 18 online events, reaching over 1,400 students and faculty in total. As stated at the May meeting, the response from the campus tour was very positive. In the post-event survey that was given to attendees this year, 100% of the 180 respondents indicated that they were glad they attended the campus tour. The CBA has also been conducting outreach to other key audiences. Last month, staff attended Sacramento's Senior Health Fair, which was held on June 20th. The CBA's consumer assistance booklet was very popular, and attendees were able to get copies in multiple different languages. So this is the second year in a row that the CBA has attended this particular event. We were joined by other government organizations and local senior-related businesses, as well as the Sacramento region's best Elvis Presley impersonator, who was kind enough to pose for a picture with CBA staff. The second Accounting in Action licensee webinar was held last week on July 9th. Topics included the new licensure requirements with a focus on accounting firms as they navigate the changes during their hiring and recruitment activities. This included specific qualification scenarios featuring different applicants using avatars or images of hypothetical people to demonstrate how each of these people may qualify for licensure. Other topics include additional details of the CBA's broader CE modernization work and an overview of the CBA's new license renewal compliance program. Over 600 viewers joined us for the live broadcast, and a recording of this webinar can be found on the CBA's YouTube page, which currently has over 1,500 views. Attendees were asked to fill out a quick survey after the event, asking them several questions, including which topics they would like to hear about from the CBA at future sessions. Overall, the survey results were highly positive. 39 out of 40 respondents said they found the webinar to be valuable to them, and we received a good amount of positive feedback, as well as suggestions to take into consideration for the next event, which will be held in November this year. Moving on to multimedia content, staff has been hard at work on a cinematic video that will be released very soon. This video highlights the importance of CPAs and how the CBA has been safeguarding the public's trust in certified public accountants for 125 years. Special recognition goes out to CBA multimedia specialist Jacob Sudia, who produced the video and filmed on location at accounting offices in downtown Sacramento. In terms of the CBA website, a new webpage specifically for college and university faculty is currently in production. This page will contain relevant information and resources for faculty about topics including the upcoming new examination and licensure requirements, certificate and degree recognition programs, and links to helpful resources that will assist faculty in navigating these upcoming changes and give them the tools that they need to best guide and support their students. That concludes my presentation on this agenda item. I'll now turn it back over to President Latta, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Do we have any member comments or questions? I had one question. When we do our Accounting in Action or Emerging Trends webinars, do we offer CPE for that, or can we do that?
No, I don't believe we do. Whether we can, I also don't think we can, no.
Understood. I thought it might be a conflict of interest. I was just curious. Okay, thank you. Seeing no more member comments or questions, thank you so much. I believe it's now time to, or was that E or F? I think we're on F. Okay, so we're moving on to F, our overview of the social media landscape in California Board of Accountancy social media strategy, presented by David Hemphill, our Information and Planning Officer.
Get my screen up here and then we will take off. There we go. All right, good afternoon, President Lata and members of the CBA. This is item 5F. This is an overview of the social media landscape and the CBA's social media strategy. So buckle up. I've got a lot of information to share with you that I hope you'll find really interesting. So off we go. Social media is a group of interactive, internet-based websites and now applications or apps that let people share information quickly and easily with others. The CBA posts a wide variety of relevant information of interest to our stakeholders. Organizations use social media as an alternative way to advertise and to post updates, photos, and announcements that users can see right away. It works like a digital bulletin board called a feed, where people can follow pages of friends, businesses, or groups to stay informed about their activities. The purpose of this agenda item is to provide you with information on the platforms the CBA uses and an overview of the analytic metrics that each provides. At the end, I would welcome any discussion and feedback you would like to provide. Social media platforms use algorithms to filter, rank, personalize, and prioritize content on a user's feed. Algorithms are a complex set of rules run by AI systems that vary from platform to platform, but the goal is always to show users more of what they're interested in, to keep them interacting with the platform for longer periods of time. Content is ranked based on relevance to the user and engagement signals, which are how the user interacts with the content, to personalize each user's feed. Performance is tracked differently by every social media platform using its own set of metrics, definitions, and measurement methods. Each platform designs these analytics around its unique features. Because of this, metrics are not interchangeable. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram provide significant data analytics that measure the effectiveness of individual posts as well as broader engagement trends, whereas X provides very limited data analytics for free, instead hiding most metrics behind a paywall. The CBA currently has 4 platforms in our social media portfolio: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X. While many more social media platforms certainly exist, some, including Threads, Blue Sky, and more, are not yet at a level of adoption that would justify directing resources toward them at this time. Then there's TikTok, a short-form video platform that has exploded in popularity with younger audiences in recent years, thanks to a powerful algorithm that showcases highly personalized content, allowing videos to go viral regardless of the user's follower count. TikTok is not currently authorized for use by state agencies, however. The CBA will continue to monitor the growth of these and other social media platforms and consider expanding its online presence in the future if doing so would be consistent with department and agency guidance. For now, the CBA remains focused on applying its resources to these actively managed platforms to maximize performance and consistency. So let's go through each of our 4 platforms, starting with the account boasting the highest number of CBA followers, and that's LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's largest online professional network designed for career development, job searching, business-related posts, and networking. LinkedIn was officially launched all the way back in 2003 and has an estimated 1.3 billion registered users across more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. The CBA uses LinkedIn and our over 11,000 followers on the platform to reach the target audiences of aspiring CPAs and licensees, including firms. Based on LinkedIn demographic information, it's interesting, most CBA followers are primarily located in California's major cities, led by the Los Angeles metropolitan area, 32%, San Francisco Bay Area, 15%, San Diego, 6%, one of those is you, Yen, I think, and Sacramento area with 4%. As you would expect, many of the CBA's LinkedIn followers are in the accounting or finance job function, making the platform an excellent way to directly reach licensees and those on their way to licensure. LinkedIn prefers posts to reach relevant professional audiences rather than going viral to unrelated users. On LinkedIn, the algorithm prioritizes high-quality professional content that sparks meaningful discussion quickly. You can see on this slide a few key examples that influence what content is shown to users. Comments are valued more than just a like or love reaction, and consistent posting helps build relationship strengths. The analytics used by LinkedIn center around content metrics. For the individual posts, that includes impressions, engagement rates, clicks, you see them here, click-through rate. If you want a specific definition of any of these terms, you can refer to attachment 1, which is the social media metrics dictionary. A lot of good stuff in there. I'll show you an example of these analytics in action in just a moment. You can take a broader look at how LinkedIn profile is performing through other data points, such as search appearances, which gives you insights into those who search for your page. Visitor metrics gives you numbers like page views and how many unique visitors you've had. And follower metrics, which shows trends of a page's new followers along with their demographics. They're all very powerful tools for our tool belt. All right, so how do the analytics actually look? So on the left side of this slide, you can see an example post. This was made about CPA exam requirements, target audience, aspiring CPAs. The post included the infographic that you see there, our CPA exam tip sheet, a direct link back to the website, and hashtags to potentially increase the post exposure. On the right, you'll see a screenshot showing the analytics of the post, the ones we referred to earlier as content metrics. You can find this as the first of many examples in attachment 2. The data here includes impressions, which you see there are over 6,500, meaning this was a very successful post for us. I also really like seeing that we gained 15 followers just from that post, which you can see in the middle there. That was probably due to the fact that it had 10 reposts that you see at the bottom displayed, allowing the post to be seen by users who may not have previously followed the CBA. Evidently, once they saw the post, they felt it was important enough to start following us. So that's when you know you're really making a good impression. Engagement rate is a fun stat that you see there. That's the percentage of people who saw the post that interacted with it in some manner, be it a comment, reaction, click, or share, instead of just reading it and scrolling past. So 6.8% is a really good number for this. So 6.8 of the people actually interacted with it. I don't know what the other 93% are doing, but that's how it is. That's a good number. Topics about applications, early entry to the CPA exam, licensure requirements, all generally successful for us on LinkedIn. We occasionally even post CBA job openings here too, but not on the other platforms. All right, I'd like to show you another way that we can visualize the data. So this slide is example 4 in the attachment, provides overall impressions, reactions, comments, and reposts over a 90-day period. And then at the bottom, the organic versus sponsored would be paid, reach of your posts. For the CBA, it's totally organic as we don't currently pay to boost any of our posts. This graph can be sorted by a variety of time periods. You can do 90 days, a week, a month, a year, to compare the performance to previous periods of the same length. So a takeaway we can make from this graph is that while impressions are down 8%, reactions are up 17%. The previous 90 days had a lot of campus tour related interactions, which may explain why the impressions were down this time comparably. The notable peak that you see there in April was due to that successful post we looked at earlier. So lots of interesting ways to find out how people are consuming our messaging, which helps us in turn improve our posting to maximize what is working. All right, on we go to Facebook, the world's largest social networking platform. Designed for connecting with friends, family, communities, and interest groups. Users share updates, photos, videos, and links, while also discovering content through their news feed. Facebook officially launched in 2004, currently has an estimated 3.1 billion monthly users and over 2 billion daily active users worldwide. Those are absolutely huge numbers. Despite these massive numbers, Facebook over the past decade or so has shifted towards a financial model where the organic or unpaid reach of Facebook pages posts are limited. So pages are profiles of businesses, organizations, or public figures. So the CBA Facebook profile is considered a page. So this means posts won't be seen by very many of the page's followers unless they are paid for. This also explains the slower growth of the CBA Facebook page in general, where we usually will see our LinkedIn profile attract more than 500 new followers every quarter, whereas Facebook averages around 30 new followers. That's a stark difference. The CBA does use our Facebook page to reach target audiences of consumers and licensees primarily. A couple interesting notes about Facebook. Our followers are spread out over a broader geographic area compared to other platforms. We have hundreds of followers in Egypt, India, and other countries around the globe. The largest age group of CBA Facebook followers is 35 to 44, which accounts for 42%, almost half of our total followers base. The Facebook algorithm uses a typical user's behavior as opposed to a hierarchy of ranking signals, as some of the other platforms do. So for example, a comment from a person who rarely comments would rank higher for that individual than others who comment more regularly. You see on the slide that video and community-oriented content tends to perform well, and as usual, consistency keeps content in a user's recent interactions pool. Facebook calls their main group of analytics content performance, which is similar to the content metrics from LinkedIn. So let's take a look at a post from Facebook. On this slide, this is one we did last month targeting licensees. This is example 5 of attachment 2. So it included information on the CE tracking function in CBA Connect that was to be discontinued, and we provided a link to download a new CE tracking worksheet. So on the right, here's our analytics for the post. Believe it or not, 667 views is a fairly successful post for us on Facebook. As you can visualize on the graph below, how the blue line is higher than the usual typical gray line post. To be honest, it is a little frustrating to only get hundreds of views on a post when you recall that our successful LinkedIn post was closer to 7,000 impressions. So even though CBA is approaching 6,000 followers on Facebook, posts receive only a fraction of the interaction that we get with our 11,000 followers on LinkedIn. Another note, you can sort here by age and gender, even geography, to see how the post does in different areas of the world or different things. So a lot of, again, useful tools there. So based on our follower demographics, we don't post too often about entry into the profession on Facebook, as the platform is generally not frequented by aspiring CPAs. Another metrics shot for Facebook, this is more of a broad trend. So this shows views and viewers over a 90-day period. This is example 6 in your attachment. So viewers here is a unique user count. So we've been viewed almost 27,000 times by 3,600 unique individuals. So the good news here is that both are in the green for the last 3 months. And then you see that spike there in June, and that's from that previous example post. So you can usually easy to pinpoint which posts are doing better. All right, let's move on to the gram, as the kids call it. The CBA's newest addition to our social media profile, Instagram, really just getting started in 2024. This is a visual-first social media platform focused on sharing photos, videos, and creative content. It's widely used by individuals, creators, and brands to express themselves through photos and reels, which are 30 to 90-second videos. Those are shown to the user as they scroll through their main feed. Then there's the stories feed. Those are displayed separately. Those can be photos, images, or videos, but they're only available for 24 hours. Instagram was launched in 2010 and has 3 billion monthly active users globally. Our Instagram account has been heavily promoted at outreach events the last couple years, most recently at the CBA campus tour. So a majority of our followers are students that had direct interaction with us at events. And because of this, we strategize many posts to target aspiring CPAs here. Instagram is also a great way to reach some of our other target audiences. The top 3 ranking signals on Instagram in 2026 are watch time, likes, and sends. So when you send a video. Engagement quality, like saves, shares, and comments, are prioritized. There's a strong emphasis on reels and video watch time, and consistency increases a user's chance of being shown in the Explore Reels feed, which someone is sent into when they click on a video. So you click on that video, and then the videos will never end if you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Sorry, that's how they get you. But that's another discussion for another time. Like the others, Instagram provides a great deal of useful analytics about posts, stories, reels, and broader audience and account level insights. Again, I encourage you to refer to Attachment 1, the dictionary, if you're interested in an exhaustive list of what these metrics are and their definitions, many of which are unique to Instagram. Staff is increasingly prioritizing Instagram to reach our aspiring CPA audience by creating many posts unique. The CBA emphasizes pictures and short videos on Instagram more than any other platform, and will often use stories to show these events for events as they are happening. Like I posted a story of picture of all of you from this morning. Instagram infographics work well also on Instagram too, such as the weekly application processing date calendars that are important to our aspiring CPAs. So as you see on this slide, a story from our final campus tour stop at UC Davis, example 7 from attachment 2. So you can see on there we used a couple of tricks. We tagged the Davis Accounting Society who sponsored the event. We used a location tag. Let's go back one. Used a location tag, both of which could potentially increase the story's reach. And it must have worked because it racked up 754 views, which is a total number. And you see it has a reach of 439, and that was a unique viewer number. So Instagram's reach metric is similar to Facebook's viewers metric. So you're probably starting to notice how they differ slightly from platform to platform. So all in all, this was a really good post because we have about 700 total Instagram followers at this point. So it was interacted with by a lot. All right, so this screen shows the 90-day period for overall follows on Instagram. Although the trend for the past period is down, again, to the previous 90 days, being right in the thick of campus tour, when we're gaining a good number of followers. But again, you see that spike in May, where we gained a bunch of followers from UC Davis campus tour stop. All right, let's move on to X, formerly known as Twitter. It got rebranded in 2023. X is a social networking site known for immediate real-time posts. It's a microblogging service for sharing short text posts, images, and videos. Although more recently, it's aiming to become more of an everything app with features like long-form text, if you pay for it, and an AI integration known as Grok, who will be happy to answer any questions the user may have. As part of the platform, its trending topic system highlights the most heavily discussed subjects based on tweet volume, speed of growth, and engagement. This allows users to see what is being tweeted about globally or locally in real time. And yes, people do still call them tweets, even after the Twitter name was retired. And it really set the stage for that whole trending, right? We use the word trending now because of Twitter and X. X currently has an estimated 611 million monthly active users and 300 million daily active users, but those numbers have been trending down in recent years. The original Twitter platform was launched in 2006. For a variety of reasons, which most likely does include people leaving the platform, the CBA follower count on X has remained virtually flat for the last several months, almost a year now. X has multiple interconnected algorithms, but the two main feeds that users see are the following and For You tabs. The following feed shows posts only from accounts that the user follows, while For You mixes in other content from accounts it thinks will be relevant to the user based on previous interactions. Then there's an Explore page, which includes the trending posts, news, sports, and entertainment feeds. So this slide shows some of the algorithm factors, such as how posts are boosted quickly with early engagement, which is then shown to users as trending topics, which makes X still an excellent source for in-the-moment posts, breaking news, and reacting to events in real time. As previously stated, X hides all major demographic information behind a paywall. The only metrics viewable for free are post-specific, such as impressions, engagements, and profile visits, like you see there. So here's a post we made from campus tour and the analytics. Not a whole lot to go off. That's pretty much all you get for each post. So you can see that 237 people saw it, 8 interacted with it, and 1 clicked through to the CBA page because of it. That's the profile visit there. So there's no way to get any trending or 90-day snapshot data unless you pay for it. X is gradually becoming less of a focus in our social media portfolio due to all of those reasons and its notable decline in interactions over the past year or so. So now let's look at, I'd like to give you some insight into the CBA's current social media strategy. So we filter our messaging through three main pillars that you see here. One being promotion of the CBA and its brand. Two, consumer and stakeholder education. And three, building relationships with our various audiences, as outlined in the outreach plan. These pillars are based on the CBA's mission and objective with the goal of driving traffic to the CBA website with our posts. Staff strives to accomplish the goals by using consistency to build authority and visibility and analyzing metrics and data to inform future plans. We use a social media calendar to organize specific topics during appropriate moments of the year. We also use what I refer to as rotations to manage the frequency and balance of regularly featured content topics. So that's a throwback from my radio days where we put songs people wanted to hear the most in heavy rotation, right? So it's the same concept here where some topics should be in heavy rotation more than others. And so we have rotations. Additionally, the timing of posts is a factor, with staff strategically scheduling posts to align with the time of day when follower activity is the highest on each platform. And that information is available in the analytics as well. Staff approaches the creation of content in a couple of ways. One, by thinking about the platform specifically and creating posts just for it. Or two, by coming up with a post or topic and then determining whether it should be unique to a particular platform or if it can be duplicated across multiple platforms. Instagram, like I said, more than any other, is the one we're trying to come up with specific content ideas for. This overall pattern provides enough content to maintain the overall consistency needed to satisfy the ever-evolving social media algorithms, helping our messaging get out to as large of an audience as possible. So now that you completely understand the inner workings of social media, staff would like to hear from you your preferences as to what type of information you might like to be given in a future outreach activity report. This reporting could include, for example, impression trends over a specific period of time, and we could point out the corresponding posts that cause any notable spikes. Maybe you really liked that engagement rate data point from LinkedIn, or you're interested in our click-through rate from Instagram. Or perhaps you'd just like to know the CBA's top performing post since the last meeting. The bottom line is looking at followers alone does not paint a full picture of overall performance and really ignores the data provided for individual posts that can be used to improve future strategies. So, thank you. That was a lot of information. So that concludes my presentation on this time. You've heard a lot from me. Now I'm looking forward to hearing from you with any feedback that you have about any of that. So I'll hand it over back to President Lotta to facilitate our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Hemphill. Ms. Hines?
So I just want to say this is a fascinating and informative overview and analysis of all the social media platforms. And I really appreciated that you provided a differentiation between the target audiences for each platform, and then also like the geographic and the professional the geographic and the professional demographics of the different groups. And then I also appreciated that you compared to other agencies within the CBA and then other jurisdictions, because I think that really gives a better content text within which these numbers are, should be considered, as opposed to thinking about hundreds of millions of people. Like that's not necessarily our goal here. It's really just to maximize the use of these, what's another, marketing resource that's a tool that's available to us, and making sure that we're using our resources the right way. The thing that stood out to me, unfortunately, when thinking about all of this, were like safety concerns. And that wasn't really that wasn't discussed, and that's something that I would like to kind of get into a little bit. So I was wondering, like, I'm going to start with bots. To what extent are, and like farm, folks who are out there trying to get at maybe our users, to what extent are you all looking at detecting, real versus, manufactured engagement on the platforms?
We have staff that are dedicated to monitoring. So it really is not very often that I notice that type of activity. X is really the platform where that happens more than anything else. And like I kind of mentioned, just the overall interactions on X have really significantly gone down. Part of it is X themselves are really trying to go in and eliminate all the bots. They fairly regularly go down. A lot of people that are still using X are complaining that their follower accounts are going way down, and a lot of it is because of X kind of policing themselves. But as far as comments, it's pretty rare that we get what I would think is definitely a comment from a non-human or someone trying to, I don't know, sometimes even ride the coattails of a post, right? You make a post about something, it's like, hey, I can offer this service at this price. Every now and then you'll get something like that. So we'll, like I said, staff is monitoring that. But the good news is there really hasn't been too much that I would say rises to the level of a legitimate safety concern. But
And then I'll kind of switch gears just a little bit, but this is related because listen, like there's a saying like, every day you don't want to become the main character on, on Twitter or on social media. And, you're trying to increase engagement, but you don't know what's going to be that thing that turns you into the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got all this attention. But, thinking about like bots and negative activity, like has there been negative engagement, and what are our policies around how to address negative engagement? And not just when it comes to, say, something that is manufactured, but certainly like from a licensee or from a member of the public, like if they were to go on LinkedIn or onto, Twitter or onto, something else and like, air out their, dirty laundry, like what are the policies around how the CPA engages with that kind of activity?
I don't know if we have a specific policy per se. We will try, you kind of gauge the level. I'll be honest, when I first started here, which was around COVID, it was an extremely toxic environment and I wasn't in the position I am now, but we, did our best to take those conversations kind of offline with them as much as we could. I'll be honest, there has been very, very little negative comments to our posts at this point. So I don't know if that means everybody loves us or they're just not, maybe CPAs are not the type of people that are, I don't know, engaging in that way. But if it's just a basic comment with a question or something, we'll try to respond there. If it's one that we feel that other people reading that would benefit from that answer too, we'll put that answer right out there. If not, we will try to message them privately and continue the conversation.
All right. And then the last thing I wanted to just kind of raise is with the rise of crimes that are targeting individuals and the usage of platforms to, basically like fish, find people to fish, are there security measures in place to protect the followers so that they're not manipulated or so that the CBA doesn't become a target, for a nefarious actor to take advantage, of our, audience and our engaged audience?
That's something I honestly don't have the answer to. I would think that might be more of a DCA overarching kind of safeguard, but
Yeah, DCA, their OIS team is actually what manages the CBA's network security and all of that. And so they have, a few years ago, we merged networks with DCA. And one of the main reasons was because takes a lot of resources and staff and software and, all of that to really monitor possible threats against your network and the phishing and the spam, all of those kind of things. And so when we merged with them, we actually took on a lot less risk, and they are now managing that whole security component for us. And so it's, round the clock kind of a thing, updates, security system updates. And so it's managed at the DCA level. We have a lot of tools on our end that we can just, click a button and report something as suspicious. And so those kind of things. So we have a lot of security monitoring going on to protect, internal IT resources. So something's not going to log into our network, log into David's, user account, get into Facebook or and start spreading, so there's a lot of gates there to keep that from happening. And I just wanted to add on to something that David mentioned that was really kind of more flipping a little bit. When David came on, we were going into COVID, and the offices were closing down, and it was kind of chaotic for everybody, not just the State Board of Accountancy. But actually, social media is actually what helped us communicate with our stakeholders. We were getting messages and communications, and people were voicing concerns like, hey, I can't get through, or I haven't heard something from my email. And we were obviously trying to get our logistics in order. And David and the public information team were actually using social media, seeing those comments, negative or not, and really, like he said, taking them, kind of offline and saying, okay, tell me what you need, how can I help? And so those social media communications are really what kind of helped our stakeholders, our applicants, our consumers, other people who were, communicating with us. So, I know he said,
I used the word toxic.
he used the word
Maybe I shouldn't
toxic, and
have,
I was like, wait a minute, let me just back up a little bit. So, it was a little bit chaotic, but it actually was a huge resource for us at that time. So, but we do, at times, we get a negative comment, but it's a negative comment. Like David said, we try to address it. We try to correct it. A lot of times it's misinformation. For a lot of time, it was pre-credit card acceptance for exams, and we got hammered with negative comments. How come I can't pay for my exam by credit card? And so when we turned that corner, a year or so, or whenever it was, a lot of that changed. And so there were some reasons that people were kind of angry, but we really did try to address those comments. We're not hiding them. We're not hiding, trying to pull them offline and make it look like everything is glorious. We're really just trying to engage with them, be a resource, trying to resolve their situation, and then move forward.
Thank you. I mean, really, really helpful. And if you're just thinking about what we would like to hear in the future, I mean, I just would like you to keep us posted on, the security, the good and the bad, whether there are trends that are happening, that you see, because everything is changing, so quickly. And then with, artificial intelligence, changing how all of these, tools are utilized. I think keeping us aware, of how it's being, how it's going is really important. It's great and exciting to hear like, oh, these posts are really doing great, but a little bit more about the, the sausage making, I think is helpful for us as well.
Yeah. And thank you for pointing out those numbers too, because I didn't put that up on a slide, but on page 8, you can see that the CBA has very good, follower counts compared to other boards and even other state boards around the country. So thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, Mr. Hemphill. Any additional member comments? Ms. Dong?
Agreed. I thought that was really important presentation for us to have. This is a topic near and dear to me because as most small business owners, we live and die by our social media and reputation online. So I was wondering, the elephant in the room that we're missing is Google Analytics. Why aren't you tracking that? There's also impressions, there's also click-through rates, really important information. And related to that in terms of, because, we're DCA board members, right? So we do have to respond to all negative posts, and it's very often for small businesses, it's really, really unfair because, how they construe information, how our customer service reps reaches out to the public. Anyways, there's always two sides to a story. But when I look at the Google page for CBA, I see that it has 2.5 out of 5 stars.
2.5, yeah.
And that 10 months ago, Brady Johnson reached out and said they, SUCK, they never answer the phone, and why can I only pay by mail, et cetera, et cetera. And it was liked 5 times. So is there thinking about sort of responding to that, and just even on Google, you can actually respond officially and say, hey, let's take this offline. Would love to chat with you. This is our hotline. Please feel give us a call. It's very easy to address that point. But sort of why not Google Analytics? I see obviously you have LinkedIn, which is a professional platform. It makes sense that you do a lot of engagement through that platform, but why aren't we tracking Google?
Okay, so number one, that, and we can do a presentation about that if you'd like, but that's more like for the website for the most part, where all those analytics are coming from. So I didn't consider that kind of part of this social media presentation, but we can absolutely, I can give you a report on, some specific things about the website. We could put that into the outreach activity report. I think that's probably a great idea. So
Yeah.
I
I
will
think would
jot
be
that down. Yeah.
right. Sorry to interrupt, but the click-through rate for that would be interesting too, to
Yeah.
see just what page on the website people land on and how much time you spend on it. Because then you would know you'd put more of your important content
Yeah, no,
there.
we do pull that on a regular basis. And we started, it may have been some comment in the last couple of meetings about the comments on Google. So we are starting to track that. So I think we've been looking at it the last 4 months, and there's been one comment, and the one comment was actually positive. So if we do, but that's the plan, we are going to respond. If we didn't feel like going back a year to respond is probably right. But we are now every month looking at that. And like I said, we've had one in the last 4 months.
I think this one actually resolved itself because they were talking about having to mail a payment for the exam. And that was actually one of the kind of what I mentioned before. This is actually resolved now because they can pay online.
Yeah.
So also in terms of Reddit, I know I've mentioned this before, but Claude, ChatGPT, a lot of the AI models are getting trained off of the use of Reddit and Reddit posts. So how much engagement are you doing on Reddit? Because, when someone uses Reddit, first of all, they'll ask questions about how do I do this? With, how is it like interacting with CPA? And you can actually go in as an official, representative of CPA to respond to those comments. Also, a lot of people in my businesses, for instance, they will go and ask Claude, what's the best company for this? And it will actually pull from Reddit posts to give you a response. So what are you doing in terms of making sure that the information that's getting fed into AI is as accurate as possible?
Yeah. Well, that's a good note to make. We don't at this point put any resources into Reddit just because you can't be a brand on Reddit. You can certainly go in and, like you said, comment, and then maybe Google will pick up on that or AI would pick up on that. But at this point, we don't feel that's the best use of the resources, because it's kind of us having to go out and explore and search and find, I have done that. Some are very positive, some are very negative, so there are some things that it would be nice to maybe set the story straight on a few. So again, that's something that staff can discuss and see if that's something that we want to move forward with.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hemphill. Mr. Franzella?
I just kind of want to offer, we did explore that after you brought it up a little while ago. And at the end of the day, again, we can't brand ourselves on Reddit, so there's not that opportunity. But then we do have a limited number of resources to extend to our outreach activities. And Reddit is a very time intensive area. And at this particular point, at least unless the board directs otherwise, these types of social media activities, the other outreach work that we do, the videos and such, take up a considerable amount of our work that, for all intents and purposes, we basically just ignore Reddit as a kind of as a tool. It doesn't mean that if something didn't come to our attention, that if we absolutely needed to get in there and kind of offer a response, we could. But it's not something at this particular point I've directed the team to kind of invest any time on, because this lift here is pretty substantive with the other outreach work we do.
I guess it's mostly to note that AI models are being trained on open source, forums like Reddit and others that will come out probably next year. And so just to be aware of that, since, we're trying to grow the pipeline of CPAs, and they're more and more likely to use these types of platforms, right? And so you want to make sure the engagement is correct and it's out there. Last question, I'm sorry, Nat, last response in terms of what I would like to see in that part of the presentation would be Google Analytics as well as impressions and click-through rates.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Franzella?
Yeah, so just to circle back, and that's really for this presentation, one of the things we've been talking about internally is right now in your outreach report, you see followers up, down, +1, plus. That's really not a very good metric. It was up until maybe a couple of years ago, but that's how we've been reporting to you. And it doesn't really show any level of success or growth or what we're really seeing in that space. So we're really trying to transition out. And this particular presentation was kind of a level set of how we kind of look at it, what our audiences are, what those how the algorithm works, if you're interested, how the audience, works, and what type of engagement would you like to see? Because I think it's more important to see if we're being shared or if people are, interacting with the post or asking questions. And I think that's much a better tool for this board to kind of assess, let's continue to push in this way, or let's continue to grow here. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we still are involved with X, but I could even see us not wanting to spend a lot of time in X because it's not providing any real analytics for us to draw conclusions from, or it's really just not that well used of a platform anymore. But I think that's what the team is trying to gauge here is what is it you want to see? Because those charts in your outreach report that you get today, I don't really want to continue to, we can, if that's how you want to look at it, but I don't think it offers the growth that you're looking for, the impact that you're looking for. So to Ms. Dong's points, I think those are what I was hoping we would hear, and we're happy to start looking at it. It'll probably be an evolutionary process as we kind of try to figure out how to build that into the report and make it look and feel right and demonstrate some of the growth that's going on. But that's kind of what we're trying to gauge out of this.
Thank you. I would just like to add, I would be interested to see some metrics on top performing posts and what the contents of those posts are in addition to the target audiences for those types of posts. And then some reporting on, like Mr. Franzella just mentioned, perhaps posts with a lot of comments, a lot of saves, just so we can, I think measuring success on social media is a lot about engagement. So I think those would be some things that would be interesting to see going forward.
Great, thank you.
Any other member comments? Mr. Rosenbaum?
Yeah, thank you again for the presentation and for the education. I guess, some of our most reach, you look at all the outreach, I know we've been really focusing on a couple of kind of big things like the exam change and the licensing change and focusing on pipeline and going to the colleges. But do you see that we're going to start doing some more of our outreach more from a consumer protection standpoint? So I know that there's, Mick had talked about the senior fair and going to that and putting together presentations more geared toward consumers and what their rights might be vis-a-vis the accounting profession.
Right, that's in our rotations, right?
And will these upcoming rotational things be directed onto different platforms given the different users of these different platforms?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is part of our strategy is, posts about make sure your CPA is verified, make sure they have a license. Here's what to do if you need to file a complaint. Some things, post a link to our consumer assistance handbook. So those are things that we do post on a not quite as often basis, but it's in the rotations there. And that's something that you try to get to, consumers. We feel a little more, Facebook and even X has the opportunity to kind of get out there more and be seen. That's why it's kind of frustrating that X is kind of going away because that's with hashtags and various things, it's so much easier to find things for people who are searching for them on X. But we'll have to find other avenues for that. But yes, absolutely, consumers is part of the strategy.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
I don't think you addressed this, and I know it's not a traditional social media platform, but I was curious what our YouTube interactions are and if we get a lot of views on the videos that are posted there.
We were debating whether we should include YouTube as a social media. I'm like, well, we don't use YouTube as social media per se. We do have about 500 subscribers, I believe, on our YouTube channel. And we've been starting to push it more now that we've been doing the licensee webinars. So that's part, we even mentioned, hey, if you want to see when we go live, click subscribe, like all the influencers always say. So we get, when we post videos on our website, it's embedded from YouTube. So you'll get the view count on that. So it's really interesting. Probably our most successful one is the one we have that we made a couple years ago about the CPA exam and how to file an application. That's been viewed 10,000 plus times. So that gets viewed a lot. But I don't think too many people are going directly just to our YouTube page to, oh, let's watch the July CBA meeting. But it's there. It's there. There were 16 people streaming earlier when I looked. So so that's all there, but we kind of use it as more of a repository, although we did just get the actual handle at California Board of Accountancy. So you can go to youtube.com/at California Board of Accountancy. So that's nice. We didn't have that before. But yeah, so I think we may start doing a little, you know, because it kind of correlates with Instagram and, you know, everything is so video centric. So we could try to, if we're going to get more subscribers there, try to put more videos over there. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hemphill.
I was just
Mr. Rayford?
thinking, you know, if YouTube users knew they could see Elvis on the screen.
Absolutely.
Mr. Murray could dress up as Elvis and just be right on there, and we'll go from there.
Did we post that picture? We did. Good. We better have. Was it our top impression post? I don't think so. In the 75 plus demographic, it was our #1 post.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hemphill. I just want to recognize the progress and the tremendous improvements we've seen in outreach and social media efforts over the past few years, at least since I've been here. And not only have the efforts increased, but the quality as well in what we're producing out there online. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now I can go ahead and take public comment for items 5B through 5F here in Sacramento. Seeing none, there are no members of the public online, so I will continue on with just taking public comment here in Sacramento until I'm notified otherwise by staff. And that brings us now to agenda item 6A. The report on the Enforcement Advisory Committee, and we actually do not have a report on that item. So that's moving on now to agenda item 6B, the Peer Review Oversight Committee. And that report will be provided by Nick Peterson via WebEx, our CPA and chair of the committee.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. President Lotta, members of the board. I'm Nick Peterson, the chairperson of the CBA's Peer Review Oversight Committee. And I'm pleased to be here to provide the report of the PROC meeting, which was held on May 20th. At that meeting, I was introduced as the new PROC chairperson and Jennifer Benjamin as vice chairperson, and we were both looking forward to serving in those roles throughout the year. I'd also like to thank CBA liaison Doug Aguilera for attending our last PROC meeting and providing an overview of the CBA's activities from the March and May CBA meetings. In terms of PROC activity, the PROC members attended 7 report acceptance body meetings since our last PROC meeting and reported that all RAV meetings met expectations. And also PROC members reviewed 2 out-of-state administering entities. Those were the Oregon Society of CPAs and Nevada Society of CPAs, and determined that they complied with the administrative procedures and standards in all material respects as established by the CPA. Our next PROC meeting is scheduled for August 19th, 2026. And President Lotta, that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Are there any member comments on this presentation? Okay, seeing none, I will take public comment on item 6B and 6C following our qualifications committee presentation, and that will be provided by Jeffrey Moline, CPA, chair of the committee.
Good afternoon, President Lotta and members of the board. I am Jeff Moline, chair of the CPA's qualifications committee. I'm pleased to be here and provide a report on the activities of the QC. As a background, the QC is responsible for holding subcommittee meetings where we interview supervisors and applicants for licensure. Both Section 69 and personal appearance interviews are held at subcommittees. Section 69 interviews occur when staff believe additional or clarifying information is needed from a California licensee who has signed a certificate of experience. or when a licensee fails to submit a certificate of experience or comply with a request for explanation of experience. Personal appearance interviews are conducted when experience is obtained outside the United States or when staff believe additional or clarifying information is needed about a certificate of experience signed by an out-of-state licensee. Lastly, QC members serve as ambassadors to the accounting profession by assisting the CPA on various projects. Now that I've provided a background, I'm going to go into the report on the QC's recent and upcoming activities. Since May 2026, the QC has convened one subcommittee meeting. At that meeting, the subcommittee conducted a personal appearance interview with an applicant who gained experience signed by an out-of-state CPA and 2 Rule 69 reviews of California licensees. Based on the interviews, the QC recommended attest licensure for the personal appearance and one of the Section 69 applicants. The next QC subcommittee meeting will be held on July 29th, 2026. Moving on to ambassador activities, Tim Jones, our QC vice chair, joined the UC Davis campus tour on May 19th, 2026, hosted by the Davis Accounting Society. During the event, Tim did deliver a speech on the value of earning a CPA license and also engaged with students by answering questions that students have. So that concludes my report at this time. I'll turn it back to President Lata and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moline. Ms. Tu?
Thank you, Jeff. So out-of-state CPA cannot sign for attested experience.
They can, but having an out-of-state or or foreign experience requirement causes you to come before the QC committee, where we just verify, like, do you understand the concepts? What is your process for licensure, and going through some of those? I may defer to staff with Michelle if she has any further clarification on that, but.
We have no prohibition against a CPA having to have a license in California in order to sign a certificate of experience. If they are out of the country, though, we do make sure that they appear before our QC.
And I might also add that some of the foreign experience requirements candidates that come before us are really good candidates. They just have to come before us because of those requirements. And a lot of them come from Big Four firms in other countries. They want to get a California license, and they are really good candidates. So.
Thank you. Any additional member comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, I will now take public comment on agenda items 6B and 6C here in Sacramento. Seeing none, we can continue on to our next agenda item, item 7 for regulations. This is item 7A, discussion and consideration of comments and possible action to amend California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Sections 6, 6.1, 7.1, 8.1, 8.2, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 11, 11.1, 12, 12.1, 12.5, 19, 21, and 36.1, and add sections 6.2, 9, 9.4, 12.2, and 12.3, and repeal section 5.5 to enhance licensure and modernize mobility consistent with Assembly Bill 1175. This presentation will be given by Suzanne Gracia, Deputy Chief of the Licensing Division.
Thank you, President Lata. I am grateful I don't have to repeat all those sections. So the purpose of this agenda item is to provide the board the opportunity to consider public comments received during the public comment period, consider and approve the staff recommended responses to the public comments, decide whether to maintain the proposed regulatory text for California Code of Regulations hyperlinked in the item as proposed regulatory language. So Assembly Bill 1175 was introduced in February 2025 and signed into law in October 2025. It includes mobility provisions effective January 1st, 2026, with new exam and licensure requirements starting in January 1st, 2027. Legacy pathways will remain available through December 31st, 2028. The proposed regulations included in this item were approved by the CBA in November 2025, initiating the formal rulemaking process under the Administrative Procedure Act. The notice of proposed regulatory action opened a 45-day public comment period, which concluded on June 22nd. 2 comments were received during this period. The first comment recommended adding additional test batteries, prohibiting foreign education credentials, and opposing computerized testing. These issues fall outside of the scope of this regulatory package, and staff recommends rejecting this comment as existing law already governs acceptable education and foreign credential evaluations. The second comment, submitted by the California Society of CPAs, expressed support for the proposed regulations. Staff appreciates the support of the rulemaking proposal, and given that Cal CPA did not recommend changes to the regulations in their support letter, staff recommends the CBA neither accept nor reject this comment. Therefore, no changes are recommended as a result of the 2 public comments received. Staff recommends the CBA adopt staff's response to the public comment, maintain the proposed regulatory text with no changes, direct staff to complete all remaining steps in the rulemaking process, and authorize the executive officer to make technical, non-substantive edits as needed. This concludes my presentation. I will now turn it back over to President Lada.
Thank you, Ms. Gracia. Are there any member comments or questions? Mr. Aguilera.
Yeah, so this is a big day. Good job. I mean, wow. Here we are after the legislative process and now the regulatory process to be past the comment period. Congratulations.
Oh, go ahead.
I
Mr.
move to adopt the motion that has been presented in our materials without reading the exact language.
Do I have a second? Do we need to read?
Yes, I move that we accept the staff recommendation to 1, adopt the response to the comment as shown in the comments section of this item. 2, maintain the proposed CCR Title 16 regulatory text that amends sections 6.1, 7.1, 8.1, 8.2, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 11, 11.1, 12, 12.1, 12.5, 19, 21, and 36.1. Add sections 6.2, 9, 9.4, 12.2, and 12.3, and repeals section 5.5 as originally noticed with no changes. 3, direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking file, including any necessary approvals from the other state agencies. And 4, authorize the executive officer to make any technical and non-substantive changes to the proposed regulations as necessary.
I I will second that. And that's the reason why I asked if you like to make the motion, because I did not want to read all that.
Thank you both. Any additional member comments or questions on the item? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, Ms. Reed, can you please take the vote?
Member Zelensky? Member Ward?
Yes.
Member 2?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Member Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Member Rayful?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Lada?
Yes.
Member Hines? Member Guzman?
Yes.
Member Dong?
Yes.
Member Batchelor?
Yes.
And Member Aguilera?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. That was a mouthful for both of us, but we got through it. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to agenda item 8, discussion and possible action on the meeting minutes. First, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the May 14th, 2026 California Board of Accountancy meeting, specifically agenda item 8A, which includes non-substantive edits that were noted after the materials were received?
Would you be willing to accept the motion to adopt 8A through E?
We do have to do those separately. Okay. A, thank you. Do I have a second for item 8A? Ms. Dong. Thank you. Do I have any additional member comments or questions? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, Ms. Reed, can you please take the vote on item 8A?
Member Aguilera?
Yes.
Member Bachelor?
Yes.
Member Dong? Member Guzman? Member Hines? Member Lotta?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Rayful?
Yes.
Member Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Member Thompson? Member Two?
Abstain.
Member Ward?
Abstain.
And Member Zelensky.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Now we get to do what Mr. Rayful suggested. Can I get a motion to accept the committee minutes, specifically agenda items 8B through 8B through 8E?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Hines. Thank you. And I'll just make a comment just for your clarification, Mr. Rayful. We do them separately because the first one we have to adopt the California Board of Accountancy meetings, and then we can accept the committee meetings altogether.
Thanks.
Yes. Any additional member comments or questions? Seeing none, any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, Ms. Reed, please take the vote.
Member Zelensky?
Yes.
Member Ward?
Abstain.
Member Two? Member Thompson?
Yes.
Member Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Member Rayful?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Lotta?
Yes.
Member Hines? Member Guzman?
Yes.
Member Dong?
Yes.
Member Bachelor?
Yes.
And Member Aguilera?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to bring forward item 10, and then we will circle back to item 9 if time permits. So we'll be moving on to the report on the Committee on Professional Conduct, the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, and the Legislative Committee, and I'll turn it over to Vice President Aguilera for his report.
Thank you, President Lotta. This morning's CPC meeting featured detailed discussion on one single agenda item. This was CPC item 3, discussion and possible action regarding the modernization of continuing education requirements. Ms. Center focused her presentation on the 2 discussion questions noted in the item and on the draft CE survey in attachment 2. Discussion questions 1 and 2 relate to the regulations that will be brought to the CBA for consideration in September. The CPC members expressed support consistent with staff's recommendations related to those discussion questions. Specifically, the CBA expressed support, the committee expressed support for removing the prohibition on earning CE in 10-minute increments for fraud and ethics courses and removing the prohibition on using true-false questions on self-study assessments. Ms. Center also introduced the statewide continuing education survey, which will gather California-specific data on CE subjects, delivery methods, and credit hours. The survey will be open to all California licensed CPAs. Results will help guide future policy decisions, especially those related to topics for inclusion in the CBA's next Sunset Review report. The CPC members expressed support for the CE survey. One member suggested the CBA consider adding the opinion of option of retired to question 5 on page 2 of the attachment 2. There's no action requested on this item. That concludes my report, and I'll return it back to President Lotta.
Thank you, Vice President Aguilera. Any member comments or questions? Secretary Treasurer Bachelor?
Yes, I actually was listening to the meeting this morning, and there are different, in the survey, there's different statuses like retired, whether or not you're a corporation, actively practicing, and different things like that. And so when we were formulating this particular survey and we were having discussions on it, I suggested that we put in whether or not a CPA is active or inactive. Because I was curious to know, well, why would they go inactive? And so, and there should be maybe some selections or maybe something that they can write into the survey to say why they have chosen to be inactive. And I was wondering if that's something that could be considered.
Ms. Center, or were you going to respond? Oh, sorry about that. Okay, thank you for the suggestion, Secretary Treasurer Batchelor. That she raises a good point that perhaps people have gone inactive because of the 80-hour CE requirement, and perhaps they would think about going active if that decreased. So that's an interesting point to make. Any additional member comments or questions? I just wanted to check really quick the survey. I just want to thank staff for the survey. I think it came up during the committee discussion. How are we ensuring that we get good participation on this survey, which I agree with Ms. Center. I think our CPAs will be very engaged with this on their own. We could also, I'm not sure if we've had a plan on who to distribute specifically to. I think, will this just be an email that goes out to the licensing population as a whole?
Yes, it will go out to everyone, all
Okay.
CPAs. Yes.
Yeah. And in tandem with that, perhaps we could have some outreach to just get the word out there that this survey is circulating on social media and on the website as well.
It'll be in the carousel that's on our homepage, as well as social media posts to alert members it's active, or sorry, CPAs.
Great. Any additional member comments or questions? Mr. Rafel?
President Lottery's point. So when the surveys go out, is there a unique identifier so that people don't answer 3 or 4 or 5 times?
No, we are not tracking individuals, and we are not doing anything to prevent that. We don't usually see that as a issue.
Okay, thanks.
Secretary Treasurer Batchelor?
Could you tell me, I think it's the total of active CPAs is a little over 67,000. What is the total population?
Total, you are correct. It's somewhere around 67,000 in terms of active. The total population itself, I think, is somewhere around 115,000, but that includes firms. I don't have off the top of my head what it is if you just include the inactives.
116.5-ish.
So in the LAR on page 8, just like you said, about it's close to 68,000 active. We have a large population of delinquent, around nearing 15,000. We have just over 20,000 inactive, and then retired just over 6,000 if we're just looking at individuals. And then the total population's just over 116,000, but that includes all the CPAs, the firms, corporations, the out of states, and the fictitious name registration.
All right, thank you.
Any additional member comments or questions? Apologies if I missed this in the presentation. When are we planning to send this survey out?
We can send it out very quickly as if we're not making changes, which it doesn't sound like we're making significant changes. Staff have already started populating the Survey Monkey with the questions.
Great, thank you. All right, I don't see any. No motion is required. This was just discussion and feedback for staff. Do we have any public comments here in Sacramento on this item? Seeing none, we will continue on to our item 10A, or sorry, 10B, report of the Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, which will be provided by Carrie Ann Farrell Hines, who's the chair of the committee.
Thank you, President Lata. During today's EPOC meeting, members discussed EPOC agenda items 3 and 4. In item 3, staff presented an overview of the process to petition for reinstatement of a CPA license and petition for reduction of penalty and the role of the CBA members. The overview highlighted the procedural steps, materials provided to CBA members, and the rehabilitation criteria applied when evaluating each petition hearing. Staff highlighted that petitioners bear the burden of proving by clear and convincing evidence that they are rehabilitated and safe to resume practice. At the conclusion of each hearing, CBA members serve as the decision makers. Members discussed several aspects of the petition process, including the use of letters of recommendation, virtual petitioner appearances, and the role of the Deputy Attorney General. Staff clarified that while letters of recommendation may be considered, they are not required, and staff does not provide guidance regarding such letters, as this could be considered legal advice. Executive Officer Franzella further clarified that petitioners are expected to appear in person unless extenuating circumstances justify an alternative format. Lastly, staff explained the Deputy Attorney General does not represent the CBA, but rather the consumers of California. In item 4, staff presented an overview of the citation and fine process, which serves an important role within the CBA's overall enforcement authority. This overview highlighted factors that are considered before the issuance of a citation, the elements included in the citation order, and the appeals process. Citations and fines are most commonly issued for continuing education 2020/12 violations. Staff provided a brief update on citations arising from the new continuing education audit process implemented following the transition to CE self-certification in January 2026. During discussion, staff clarified that the citation fines can range from $100 to $5,000 that is established in statute, and that assessed fine amounts are determined based on multiple factors, including prior violations. Staff also noted the CBA's authority to pursue formal discipline for repeat offenders. Members expressed interest in having the CBA track trends related to citations issued to first-time offenders compared with repeat offenders. Both items 3 and 4 were informational and no action was taken. I will turn it back to President Lata for discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Are there any member comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I will take public comment at the end of this entire item. Ms. Hines, you can please continue. Oh, that was both. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take public comment here in Sacramento on agenda items 10B, 1 and 2. Okay, and seeing none, that concludes that item. We can move on to item 10C, the report of the Legislative Committee, and that'll be provided by Ms. Batchelor, the chair of the committee.
Thank you, President Lara. The LC committee discussed legislation relating to school accountability and AI auditors. Starting with the LC item 4A, staff presented Assembly Bill 126, which was an education trailer bill to the 2026-2027 state budget and contained school accountability provisions that related to the CBA. AB 126 implements requirements for continuing education and experience to obtain or maintain placement on the state controller's directory. Excuse me for a second. Directory on who can conduct LEA audits. Too much cake. AB 126 provides that provisions in which matters can be referred to the CBA for investigation. This measure was signed into law by Governor Newsom on July 9th, 2026. The LC had questions regarding who can provide the oversight of the 2 years of experience. Staff indicated that answers will likely come during the bill's implementation phase and can be shared once that is determined. Next was an item on legislation dealing with the auditing of AI, including Assembly Bill 1405, Assembly Bill 1709, and Senate Bill 813, and then 2 identical bills, Assembly Bill 2023 and Senate Bill 1119. Assembly Bill 1405 is a 2-year bill that was presented to the CBA in 2025, but stalled in Senate appropriations last year. Staff is anticipating amendments in August that would establish a registration program for AI auditors within the Business and Consumer Services Agency. These amendments would require that a registrant who conducts covered audits, a newly defined term, do so in compliance with standards published by the agency appropriate to the system or model being audited, and that CPAs do so in compliance with professional standards and CBA laws and regulations. SB 813 is a bill contingent upon the passage of AB 1405. It would establish the California Artificial Intelligence Standards and Safety Commission within the Business and Consumer Services Agency. The commission would be required to take action to establish safety and compliance standards for the auditing of AI. AB 1709's relevance to the CBA comes from the commission created by the bill, known as the E-Safety Advisory Commission within the Department of Justice, which would be tasked to advise the Attorney General on matters related to online safety. If AB 1709 is inactive, this E-Safety Commission would supersede the commission established in SB 813. Confusing, huh? Two other bills, Assembly Bill 2023 and Senate Bill 1119, have identical language and would require, among other provisions, the Attorney General to adopt regulations providing for professional ethical standards and eligibility requirements for AI auditors. After a robust discussion, the LC directed staff to prepare letters to the authors of the legislation, sharing the CBA's analysis and continue to offer to be a resource. It was further suggested that staff offer an amendment to the term covered audit by changing it to covered AI audit in the bill. The LC took no action on this item. The final item on the LC committee agenda was to review and consideration of possible positions on legislation the California Board of Accountancy is monitoring. Staff is monitoring 6 bills of interest and will prepare an analysis if any of them rise to the level requiring presentation to the CBA. That concludes my report, and I turn it back over to President Lara.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Batchelor. Are there any member comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, that concludes our agenda item 10. We will jump back to agenda item 9. Other business, we don't have any reports on the AICPA different committees. So we will move on to 9B, which are our National Association of State Boards of Accountancy reports. I will take public comment for item 9B1A through 9B1E at the end of the presentations. And it looks like we will be starting with the Inclusion Committee reports, since we do not currently have a report for the Enforcement Resources Committee. So I will turn it back to Secretary Treasurer Batchelor.
Thank you, President Lara. I'm part of the NASBA Inclusion Committee, and the purpose of our committee is to review and seek new members for various boards throughout the United States and discuss them coming aboard NASBA, getting involved, and partnership strategies. So the main purpose of the meeting that was held on June 16th of this year was talk about the assignments that were given to us as committee members, and it's based on what state you're in is what region you're in. So like, say for instance, with me, I'm in the Western region. So when a new board member comes about in the Western region or any other region, what our committee does is we reach out to those new board members to talk to them about NASBA, try to encourage them to participate and to feel welcome coming and to be involved in orientation. NASBA provides a board orientation for all new members that come aboard. And my states that I'm assigned to is upstate Washington as well as Oregon. And the next annual meeting that would probably have board training would be the October meeting, and that's in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, what we also talked about are the travel bans and restrictions for some states, boards, and California was called out as being one of them. So therefore, what NASBA have put in action is scholarships, which will pay for new board members to be able to come out no matter what area of the country it's in. Sometimes it's a lot of times, I think it's Tennessee is one of the states where a lot of the meetings are held. And from what I understand, they told me I needed to talk to our staff. Even with these scholarships, California is not allowed to accept these scholarships. Am I right or wrong? They're right. And so I asked them why, and they said I would have to ask you.
It's two reasons, or a couple of reasons, but one being we have a contract with NASBA for administration of the CPA exam, so it creates a conflict there. They're not a 501c3, they're a 501c3-6 or whatever that designation, so that they have a lobby presence if they so chose. And then even if we got through all of those, you would have, if you accepted the scholarship, we've been advised that it would either need to be reported as on your Form 700 for income, because it would go beyond the gift limit. So there's a whole host of factors of why it's not allowable.
Okay, so versus putting on this Form 700 is just no.
No, even what I'm saying is it would be listed as income, even if we got through all those other hurdles.
Okay.
But you're kind of disqualified from the contract,
Mhm.
and then where they're structured as an organization, even before you got all the way down to the
To
the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
and there's certain amounts that once you go over, it's prohibited. It's just prohibited.
Mhm.
It's not like, oh, you can do it, but it's just no.
Okay. Okay. Well, that explains it. So where's her, Member Guzman, Valinsky? I'm sorry. That's it. So, but anyway, that's what we talked about, and we do have a tracking system that we put in place in order to update, the level of our success in getting new board members to attend. And for some reason, that particular tracking system had some glitches in it, so they're working to iron that out. And so once that gets done, I guess that would be great. But anyway, that concludes my report. That was the biggest thing that we talked about is, bringing more board members for interest in NASBA. And now I'll turn it back over to President Lara.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Batchelor. I did have one comment or question about the travel restriction. Are those DCA rules or California state rules?
Well, the first two that Dominic, or that, sorry, that Mr. Franzelli, I'm very casual, are government code sections regarding, oh gosh, what is it called? Incompatible activities. And also a DCA policy based on that statute, which DCA is required to have because of that law. And what I cited is actually an FPPC rule. It's Fair Political Practices Commission, and I'm actually looking it up right now just to make sure I wasn't wrong. But I'm pretty sure once you hit a certain dollar amount, it's just prohibited. It's not even like income, it's just straight up no.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Aguilera?
Yeah. It's one part of this is that we can't have NASBA paying for us to travel or reimburse us for anything because of the conflict. And then there's the other part where if California wanted, they could reimburse us, they could pay us to go to these events. But because of the current, I guess, budget and restrictions, it really has to be, as I think of it, very, very important or urgent in order for us to get approved to do that, to get reimbursed for that travel. Am I close?
There's a Department of Finance letter or budget letter that provides information on what's considered mission critical for purposes of out-of-state travel. And we evaluate each trip on an individual trip request, look at the agenda, look what's kind of going on, and make efforts to secure travel on an individual request basis. So, and that goes all the way to the governor in all but like in two circumstances. If it's a neighboring state, it might only go to the agency, but otherwise it goes all the way to the governor's office for approval.
Any additional member comments or questions? Ms. Tu.
Thank you. And you know, I'm glad this is out in the open, and that way we all have the same information, and especially we have a lot of new board members. So now it's clear and it's not nebulous and so forth. So thank you for bringing it up.
Any additional member comments? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and move on to the report of the Legislative Support Committee, and I turn it back to Ms. Tu.
Thank you again. So I am reporting on Legislative Support Committee, and we met on June 26th. The committee actually met at the Western Region event in Port City, Utah, and I participated just like a good board member virtually. So we didn't have to go through the whole travel debacle. We have updates, and I'm not gonna, it was almost 2-hour meeting, so there's a lot that we discussed, and I have the minute of the meeting if anybody need more details. But basically, I want to share with you a few things. One is the legislative update regarding pathways and mobility. 45 states out of 55 has passed new pathway, just like California did. And obviously only a few still has not proceeded to a new pathway mobility due to timing issues and legislative timing and so forth. All right. And then there's a lot of discussion regarding deregulation. Deregulation is not happening not only in red states. As a, I need to do this. As I mentioned in the past report, Florida on one side of deregulation where they want to take everything out, no board of accountancy for the state, to no CE requirement, to other areas. For example, for California, we're doing our own modernization of CPE, cleanup, discussion, decisions, and so forth, that are happening right now. And then NASPA is also working toward legislative and government affair restructuring. That basically beef up the legal department of NASPA and will actually help the legislative department with additional staff. And there were a lot of discussion about possibility of future work for legislative department on bill tracking, direct legislative support, legislative affair network, and then of course digital outreach, and similar to inclusion committee, they're looking at making sure that we have a structure to do outreach and how that should look like and so forth. And then the rest of the meeting was pretty much brainstorming about what future topics we will be discussing for the rest of the year in future monthly meetings. With that, I finish my report.
Thank you, Ms. Tu. Any member comments or questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 9B1D, and that is the Standard Setting and Professional Trends Advisory Committee report that I will be providing. We met on July 1st. We met on several topics, but the ones that I found most notable were in relation to AI and private equity. We've had extensive conversations about private equity, as an industry, not only at the state level, but nationally as well. One thing I thought of particular interest were there are two members of the committee who actually are employees of a firm that was acquired by a private equity organization. And it was interesting to hear their perspectives because one of the main risks we often talk about when it comes to PE is the impact on independence as it comes to conflicts of interest in terms of owners and partners' salaries, and how incentives for establishing those amounts can be at conflict and compromise independence. And both of the members both highlighted that they actually aren't seeing that currently in their employment situations, and that they are seeing independence being taken more seriously. They're seeing any compensation be scrutinized more than it was prior to the acquisition. So I thought it was nice to hear a real world experience about this topic rather than the different, pontifications people may have, or, different thoughts, or the different things we think may happen. So it was nice to hear from two people on the committee who have that regulatory lens say, hey, I haven't seen that negative thing happen yet. Not that those things aren't out there, but I thought it was interesting to hear. Additionally, we talked about a Wall Street Journal article, which I am happy to share to members, that evolved around a new AI accounting firm that has been created. It is being joined by a former PCAOB board member. She left the board back in January. She has joined this effort to create this accounting firm that will automate 80% of its work by 2030. And the other co-founders are fintech professionals and another CPA. So it sparked a discussion around regulators and how we need to try to meet the challenge of addressing this and creating laws and regulations around AI to meet the speed that the industry is going and developing AI, which is always the challenge as regulators, to make regulations in tandem with new developments of a new technology. It was a very good point, I thought, that he rose. He even mentioned that the support, in a way or indirectly, it could support deregulation efforts if we're not seen as moving along and in tandem with the speed at which the industry is adopting new things like AI. So I thought that was an interesting thought that came up. But it's a very interesting article. Like I said, I'm happy to share it. I'll just read one quote, which I thought was interesting. From the article that says, the audit approach is still built around human limitation. And so in order to truly realize the benefit of technology, you have to build an audit methodology that is not human-centric, but machine-centric. So it's a very progressive perspective that this firm is taking, and they've got licensed in May. So they are able to take audit clients already. I don't know if they are. The firm is called Oath, if anyone's interested in looking into that and kind of following that as it develops. And if you'd like to see the article, just let me know and I'm happy to share. But yeah, those were the main topics of the Standard Setting and Emerging Trends Committee this month. Any member comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none. I believe that brings us to item E, which is the report of the 2026 Western Regional Meeting. I'll turn it over to Executive Officer Franzella.
Thank you. I'll keep my comments brief. The agenda is in your meeting materials just before the committee reports. I did have the opportunity to go at the end of June to Park City. As always, it was a very beneficial and engaging conference. I think NASBA's doing they're getting even better at providing some of the topics and spending more time in breakout sessions so individuals can chat about what we're listening and hearing. The couple of points or a couple items I'd like to highlight are they had a discussion on the National CPE Task Force that the AICPA and NASBA are undertaking in data gathering and possible recommendations related to CPE, both in the hours and the subject area, similar to what we're doing, especially as part of our Phase 2 CE work group. So we're obviously staying engaged with them. They have a vendor who's doing working groups to collect data. They did a session at the NASBA Western Regional, and I've been invited to participate in an ED one sometime later next month. So they're kind of in that phase. They provided some updates on the CPA exam trends and the pipeline, which I think the board will get some similar information at the September meeting, because NASBA and the ICPA are coming to that meeting or participating in that meeting to answer some questions members have had on the CPA exam and some of the pipelines. So they'll be there to share some of that. And then on the alternative practice structure task force that I serve on, I was a panel member on the upcoming recommendation memo related to some ideas for regulators to consider as part of the regulatory framework to kind of address this emerging trend. So I expect that recommendation memo will probably come out in August. And once it does, we'll bring it before the board to kind of vet and discuss to see if there's anything within it that the board feels is valuable to add to its regulations or consider statutory changes. So I would expect that to be forthcoming, probably not in September, even if it comes out in August, more like November, to have some time to digest it before we kind of present it to the board. So with that, I'll turn it back over to President Lada.
Thank you. Any member comments on Mr. Franzella's presentation? Seeing none, are there any public comments here in Sacramento on agenda items 9B1A through 9B1E? Seeing none, I will continue on to our final agenda item, 11A, agenda items for future California Board of Accountancy meetings. Are there any agenda items from members? Ms. Ward?
I'm not sure if it's a agenda item or maybe more of a suggestion. I've mentioned a few times, and I do love how outreach activities are going out to the colleges, but I've yet still to hear anything about a junior college. Junior colleges, I think, is really important. It's a group of students there who are going to transfer. You're missing out on a group of students who aren't aware of the profession. Since we talked about AI, I did go to Cloud because I like to use Cloud myself. We have about 70,000 students who transfer, automatic transfer to state and UCs. So out of those students, business degrees are the top 3, but yet we're missing out on going to the junior colleges and just to the states. And how is that even fair? You have a group of students who don't even know about the profession. I'm not sure if Cal CPA has contacts with junior colleges, with their faculty, if they're part of the organizations, if they promote that kind of thing. I did reach out to some of my coworkers and asked them the questions, and some knew about it, but as a junior college instructor, you're very busy. So I'm just curious, do we have the same outreach for state and UC? Are we applying that to the junior colleges? And if not, I do say we do.
So yes, and we can either at the next outreach report or as part of my executive officer report, I'll share some of the activities we've undertaken, but we've had working groups specifically with junior colleges to talk about an accounting certificate that would be beneficial to individuals who kind of go through that program to help reduce their experience requirement. We participated at, I don't remember the name, I can't remember the name of the, thank you, Matt. Is that what it is? Whatever that.
Jason Fox with the California Society of CPAs. Yeah, Mount SAC, Mount San Antonio College.
Yes, so we've been down there, and I think there was around 200 or so individuals and along with junior colleges in that region. So we we do make inroads and efforts to there, but I'm happy to share exactly what we've done. And one of the areas we are really focused on is the junior colleges, because we have this accounting certificate, which we think would be an area where they can develop programs that would encourage individuals to kind of change of life, change a career, individuals who might need to go back to school to help them reduce their experience requirement. And I think we already got one or so community colleges who are interested or have developed an accounting certificate as a result. So I think we really do make a strong effort to be in front of that group as much as possible.
And this is on their campus?
Either on their campus or virtually, or again, I can't remember why St. Anselmo Fire is in my head and for Mount Sac, whatever. But that's it was in person. And we go down there and meet with that group.
Okay, just wondering, because I know I think I've attended 2 of the sites we had it at the State College, and it was very nice. So I'm just wanting to make sure that junior colleges are also having the same opportunity.
I'll come to you in just a moment, Mr. Fox. Just to add to that, yes, for the campus tour we've done the last 2 years, junior colleges were included in that list. And as Mr. Franzella said, sometimes it is virtual. I think our last campus tour stop was Irvine Valley College, and it was a virtual presentation. And to your point, those community college students tend to be a lot more engaged, and they ask us a lot more questions, and they need a lot more support typically than do the 4-year university students. And I know Professor Davila at USC, he has a specific community college event where he invites all of the community colleges to an accounting event at the school. And we have been involved, CalCPA has also been involved for several years as well. So we do know that that's an important group, and we have been trying to increase our outreach to community colleges as well. Thank you. Any more member comments? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Fox?
I was just going to add, and Ms. Lotta kind of covered my comments. We have a lot of program with community colleges. We call it CC2 CPA, so Community College 2 CPA program, and a lot of it's focused on how do we do a warm handoff from a community college environment to a 4-year institution so they could be successful through that path. And Ms. Lotta has been gone to a number of events and done above and beyond to represent the board at a lot of those events, sharing her personal experience, but also representing the board. So we do focus on that because I fully agree with you. That's an important audience we need to talk to.
Thank you. Any additional public comment here in Sacramento? Seeing none, I will now move into closed session to discuss pending litigation matters. Once the CBA is done discussing these matters, we will adjourn for the day and reconvene Friday morning at 9 a.m. to conduct the petition hearing. We are adjourned for the day. Thank you.
Members, we have to take an afternoon break for